Because I don't have it unmuted. Now we are live. All right. How is everybody doing this fine and wonderful evening? I am BrettFX. We're going to be hosting some interesting conversations here tonight. But as the title states, we are some people who are going to have a bit of a roundtable discussion about Battlefield 2042. Just kind of the beta just happened last week. We've got the drop of information for the Hazard Zone mode. We'll talk a little bit about that. And just kind of our general thoughts on what's going to be happening for the game. I think we can all agree that the general design decisions have been made for the game, and we're kind of what we're seeing here in the beta is pretty much close to what we're going to be having in the release game, with probably some tweaks that are going to be going in there. Obviously, performance is not going to be something that we're going to be harping on too much because, I mean, it was a beta. We're kind of expecting it to be crap to begin with. But let's go ahead and introduce our guys. We're going to be starting over here with Incarnate. How are you doing, man? And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you just said, my name is Incarnate, or Eric. I'm a SimThick admin, so sim.gg for all your Battlefield weapon stats. Hopefully we'll have 2042 going soon. You can find me on Twitter at IncarnateNA. I mostly do competitive Battlefield. I did that for Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, and I've also done some event hosting with Levelgg. So I'll host events. I've been a player, and hope to see what we do with 2042.
Awesome. Definitely looking forward to all of that juicy stuff. And the YouTubers are clamoring for that information, man. I just know it. You guys should definitely charge a premium for that, like $5 for each time. You guys are just like, at least get your site, rental fees done for like a year or something. I don't know. Anyways, I am BrettFX. I have been around the Battlefield scene for quite a while as well. Started out as a competitive player, went into casting. Been in the casting for the majority of my Battlefield life. Done some stuff with the developers. Had an opportunity to go to each of the studios and give feedback. Have not given feedback on 2042. I am no longer one of the chosen. So I'm just as surprised about all this stuff as you guys are. And maybe that was the case. Maybe this is their key to making a good game was to leave me out of it. I don't know. Anyways, you can find me at BrettFX on Twitter, and I will be posting up more on YouTube, youtube.com/BrettFXGaming. And probably going to be switching all of my streaming over there to YouTube as well. But that should be some pretty interesting stuff, especially if we can get some casting going on. And next, Gravity.
Yeah, I am Gravity. I've been playing the Battlefield series competitively since BF 1942. I played as a competitive player since 42 to BF 4, and now I'm turned to caster for Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 2. And I currently still do casting for BF 2 as well. You can find me on Twitter at Gravity13. That's XIII. And the same on Twitch and on YouTube at youtube.com/GravityBFTV.
All right. And our last, but certainly not least, Julian, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm Julian Janganoo. I also host a Battlefield podcast, usually on Saturdays. I have one coming up tomorrow, actually, which is pretty cool. Battlefield streamer, been playing since 1942. Mostly starting in Battlefield 2 is where I played a lot. But yeah, I've been streaming ever since Battlefield 1 on Twitch. So you can find me on twitch.tv/Julian Janganoo, and I'll be streaming the new Battlefield when it comes out.
All right.
Did you see the chat about the volume?
I did, and I have been editing them. So guys, definitely let me know. I have increased everybody by like 30%. So hopefully it doesn't just absolutely blast your ears off. I don't know. Maybe it will. And I could always turn myself down as well. But anyways, guys, we're going to be getting into this. We're not going to be doing too many in terms of rants. I've already told the guys if they start ranting too awfully long, I'm just going to mute them. And we're kind of just wanting to talk about some things that are going to be relevant. We all know that it wasn't exactly what we wanted. We all have problems with it. We're all looking forward to the great and powerful Portal to be able to save our bacon and make this game something that we truly and dearly need for this franchise. So first and foremost, we're going to start a little bit, I guess, in order here. We're going to go Incarnate, myself, Gravity, and then Julian on each of these topics. If you guys don't have anything to say, just pass on it. And we're just going to kind of keep this in order so that we at the very least know who is going to be talking next. First topic, though, that is going to be coming up, and this is something that we saw a lot of discussion on, is UI and HUD elements. And I think Incarnate, you had some, it was either I was in Discord or I saw you on Twitter, something about having some interesting points on this one. You are muted, by the way.
Still muted.
I didn't do that. I swear. Let me think. I don't think that was me on Twitter. I haven't posted much on Twitter, but definitely I've said some stuff in Discord, various channels. The UI, I think, is a bit blocky. I think most people can agree on that. I think the vehicle spawn thing, like if you don't know where to click, like if you're on the spawn screen, for example, the vehicle spawn in is kind of clunky. I think and this ties more into the Conquest layout, but the sector system's a little bit poorly maybe displayed and managed on the UI, but it's also kind of a weird mechanic that maybe I just need to get used to. I don't think it's a bad thing to have like the layout that it has, but there needs to be some customization, and there definitely needs to be a bit more. I don't know. It just feels clunky. It feels like someone compared it to a free-to-play Chinese FPS game in terms of UI layout, and I kind of agree. It just feels unpolished. It feels rough, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it doesn't feel like what we've been used to in like 3 and 4, even Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5. A lot of people had different opinions. I thought it was okay. Wasn't great. But this is definitely a hit or miss for a lot of people, myself included.
All right. Well, hopefully the audio is picked. And I do agree with you. There's definitely some elements on it that I did not like. Menus certainly clunky. Didn't really make any sense in certain aspects of it. I myself had more problems with just everything that pops up and flashes. You had the top part of the screen that constantly had something coming down saying like somebody captured something, you lost something. I think ribbons were up there at the top. Just seemed like it was not really supposed to be like what it was, which was really weird. And then we did have some really weird, like over on the left-hand side, that particular feed that was happening. You had a red icon or bar notification that would pop up really big and then it would kind of shrink down. That's the kind of stuff that I really didn't like about it. I wish that they had turned that off. But I don't know. I'd be curious to see if they actually make a change going into the main game, because that's stuff that I would think would be fairly easy to change or to modify. But who knows? I will say the one thing that I absolutely loved when it comes to just your on-screen stuff is they moved the points over to the right-hand side. You know, in Battlefield 5, when you had all those points that would show up right there in the middle of your screen, like that was so annoying and so unneeded. The fact that they were able to move that over to the right, absolutely loved that. That was probably my biggest gripe. Other than that, I think the HUD icons needed to be scaled down. I think did we have the ability to scale the HUD icons, or not the
Nope.
HUD, but the
No.
the revive icons in past games?
To revive icons? No.
Yeah, like
No.
we didn't have that.
No.
If they would add like either for us to be able to scale those down or to add a range scale to it, so like maybe, you know, within 50 meters the revive icons go away, I think that would be really cool, because when I was playing Falc, it was absolutely annoying to be looking all the way over at B and you see like 20 revive icons and they're not even close to where you can go. So if we could kind of, you know, clean up that clutter a bit, make that a little bit more something that you can tweak, edit, and change, that would be pretty good. Gravity?
Well, I think everybody. I don't know if you noticed. Everybody, said that you are a little quiet now. In regard to the rest of us, go figure. So I will start my first little rant here. I thought the UI was pretty terrible. From everything from the vehicle UI to the infantry UI, there are things that are just not there. There are things that are just they're scaled wrong. That obviously there's the complaints about the mini-map positioning and the mini-map scale that you can't change, and if they don't give you that, I mean, that's just bringing back nightmares of Battlefield 3's mini-map that you just can't change. There's the fact that there's people running around with ammo boxes and med crates. You don't know which players are running around with ammo boxes or med crates. The medic class, Falk, cannot see who needs healing and who doesn't. The fact that you're running around even without a storm going on, and suddenly the UI is doing all this glitchy, the little glitchy crap. And with vehicles, particularly when those are getting repaired, that really sets the UI to start glitching out, and that's absolutely ridiculous. I think there's a bit of overkill on that. The fact that when you're in tanks, you can't see. You can't see vehicles far away. The spotting mechanic isn't great. The Q button really doesn't work. When you do actually manage to spot something, it lasts a second or half a second before it disappears. It doesn't track. It needs some significant improvements, and even the font and the color scheme of it needs to be improved, because the light blue it meshes with too many colors on the map.
Okay, Julian.
Yeah, the UI colors and stuff that I'm just piggybacking off of Gravity right now. It seems like, especially when you get hurt and whatnot, it turns red. Kind of gives you that extra indicator that you're in trouble, kind of thing. That's pretty cool. There's also a lot of colorblind options on there. I wonder if there should be some non-colorblind options there, or just purely custom if anyone wants to change it any color of the HUD they want, or maybe have some sort of gradient if they want. I mean, these kind of UI element changes, I assume they're really easy to change, and we have seen it a lot in other betas to launch games. The UI changes a bunch all the time. Even little things, they add little things in patches. They don't even tell you they add it, but they just add it anyway in specific patches. I'm not really worried about the UI. Sure, it's kind of clunky, boxy, but they've been doing that since Battlefield 1. It seems to be the style. Whoever's in charge of that UX or UI design over there kind of likes that, the simplification of it. I personally think it's like a kind of a bad representation in the beta, of course, even though it's severely limited, of these specialists. If that's a selling point, they are just pictures. Like, you just choose a picture. Like, there's no lore to them. There's no character or any type of facial elements. We don't know if they're snarky or kind or funny or anything like that, or goofy. Like, there's no 3D element to them. If you want, maybe there will be in the release when you go into your customization menu. Maybe they will, have their little quips or whatever. There's no character to them. It's just a picture, and you just pick it because they got the grappling hook or whatever. That's what I noticed right away. The UI is just very simplistic and bland kind of way. But yeah,
I would imagine that in your customization, like when you're doing your skins and things like that, that's probably where you're going to see what you're talking about.
Exactly. It's just not in the beta, so I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, I can't see where that would actually fit in like a mode that we played, to where it would make sense, like where it wouldn't just be extra clutter. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like who's going to care when you're in a conquest match? You're just trying to respawn as fast as possible about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine that's probably going to be within, or like in Hazard Zone, they're going to really hit that hard. It sounds like
there's no ending
or two as well.
Yeah, there's no ending squad thing. Yeah. Like we had in Battlefield 1, Battlefield, kind of like the walkthrough that you see in Call of Duty matches, beginning or at the end of every round. This kind of just cycled you through, so you're missing. There's a lot of things, all the little things that if we're talking about HUD and UI and criticizing it, I'm going to point out, because it's not in the beta at all. So
I think what you're touching on is a kind of a larger encapsulating issue rather than just the UI and HUD. But I've got two more for UI and HUD that are kind of biggies that just kind of stand out. One, there's no chat box, which is really weird for a Battlefield game, though I can understand it with having 128 players. But not even having one locally is really weird. And number two,
yeah.
what is that tab screen? Like, you can't
I was going
check
to
the
say something like
scoreboard.
that. Yeah.
You can't check
Yeah.
your other players. Your squad, your ping, all of your stuff is in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's just like, what do you? Then you go hit escape, and the squad stuff doesn't work. Now, granted, it's a beta, and that squad stuff should definitely work in a release. But like, the game is even that build is a month out, and they can't even get the squad button working. That scares me.
You know,
Elements are just missing.
Yeah,
period.
it is interesting that you bring that up because actually I was watching another podcast that Julian was a part of, and he brought up a really good point about why you can't see what you would traditionally see in your tabbed view. And I thought that was pretty interesting about how I think you were mentioning the fact that it was mainly there so that you're not going to be seeing any of the, you know, toxic style of, well, this guy's 100 and 0 on the other side type thing, trying to shield people from thinking that they're just getting a little crap stomped out of them.
Yeah.
I
what
get
you
that.
what you don't know won't hurt you kind of thing. It's the most least toxic UI in the history of Battlefield. There's no chat for you to complain or whine about anything or to, you know, do normal stuff like, hey, go here, or hey, I need ammo kind of thing, because the comma rose is completely gone and it will be coming out in the launch. So that was missing as well in terms of like team play and whatnot, even though that's kind of minuscule in some people's eyes. But the scoreboard is one of the biggest things to see if you're even doing well, other than the actual scoreboard that shows how many tickets you got left. Okay, they got to have that, right? Which they did. But when it comes to like who's doing well, what squad's doing well, that's in the tab menu, but it's so localized just to your team. You have no idea how the other team's doing just based on the ticket count overall. So it just blocks you out of a whole bunch of different things. You can't even hack use8 because you have no idea who's hacking. You can't complain about stacking because you don't know who's stacking unless you guess. You don't know who's doing really well or getting all the kills. There's no score. I'm sure they'll add that later, but
on top of that, let's just go with the squad thing of. Oh, I lost my train of thought. So with the tab menu, so
yeah, the tab menu.
In past games, how many past Battlefield games have you seen people argue in the chat and call out, "Hey, that player is 90 and 2. What is he doing?" You know, instead of taking out the tab screen, what they could have done is just put a giant helicopter icon right next to his name and just said, "This is what this player is doing." And hey, maybe that'll inform you that maybe we should play a few more stingers or iglos or something, you know, like that. Make it much more simple.
Didn't they have that in Battlefield 4, like the primary target? What's that again?
Oh, the HVT. That does, that helped, but that was commander only. Yeah.
Yeah.
Commander only. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I can see that the icons coming into play. That would be an interesting way to do it. And Carnage, it looked like you had something that you wanted to say there for a second.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, if I can go back real quick, I do agree with what you said earlier about the bars and like the red background on that left side, and then on the top side that huge like blue banner on the top that would come in. We have lost Sector D. Totally overkill. You know, like Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3 had that text pop up for the server message. That's fine. You don't need to give it a background and like a splash screen and whatever. I just don't. I want to see what's behind it. You know, I need to see my screen. You just took away 1/16 of it. Not cool. I think there was a train of thought there that I had for a second, and I just told the scoreboard and the lack of team chat and all chat and all stuff like that. I think that should be something maybe toggleable for Portal, but I mean, in thousands of hours with Battlefield, I have never seen someone, not never, 99.99% of the time, someone does not use that as it's intended, you know, for team play. It's either some role player guy going, "Oh, we need to move to Sector B," or it's, you know, even more larger majority, just someone flaming in chat, you know, whether it's slurs or just hating on their team or, you know, something, whatever it is, it's never actually helpful. If they make a good, decent ping, Camaro something system that works on both a squad and a team level, you can remove team chat, move the text box, make it a portal only option for custom modes, call it a day. And I think the game would be better off for it.
Here, I agree with that entirely.
I don't even think like the scoreboard thing. I think like making that totally innocuous so people don't know who's doing what on the enemy team. Fine, who cares? It's a pub game, and they make the settings again for Portal, and you can go through the scoreboard and see who's dead or alive, like Battlefield 4 or 1, and you can kind of play around enemy dead players. In custom games, fine, go for it. The pub games, it's just a pub game, especially with the 128 players. You don't know who's what or where anytime. On the UI, you're not gonna be able to know. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a bad thing to have, but it's not the top list of priorities when it comes to fixing that UI.
Yeah, the squad and scoreboard button is you have to press escape just like you would
it's
to
a total clunky mess,
exit
yeah. Yeah,
it's definitely a
garbage.
placeholder because there's no squad, nothing in there.
Don't say definitely.
First off.
It's gonna be in the launch version, and you know it.
No way, man! It says squad and scoreboard. There's nothing. There's no squad. Nothing there. You can't switch squads. You can't.
I would not be surprised.
Rename your squad. I mean,
Can't switch teams.
Yep, no team switcher.
That's not anything new, guys. That's
Not
Battlefield 5. Hello.
switching teams is toxic, so
new.
we know that's out.
It's really funny how they can't, like, they won't even add it in for the ability of a winning team to allow you to switch to a losing team. Like, it can't be that hard to put that logic in there. Okay, this guy wants to switch teams. Is the ticket count higher on the other team? No? Okay, let him switch. Like, why is that not a thing? That baffles me right there. So, all right, so going back to some ping, what you mentioned before about with pings, we have seen, and I have also mentioned this as well, talking about bringing back the 3D spotting from Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 3D spot, in my opinion, was a lot better than what we had in 3 and 4. It didn't last as long if they were out of sight, but it was still a spot mechanic that was in there. And with this particular map on Orbital, and I don't know how it's going to work on some of the others, because I think we got some desert and some snow maps or Arctic maps, so it may not be as cluttered with foliage. But with all of the grass and the trees and the bushes, it was really hard to see things. Like, I remember playing with Shadow and Skittles, and they were like, they're on the hill with the green, like, you couldn't call it out, and they tried to ping it, and it's like you said, the ping was so inconsistent that it wouldn't work. But maybe if we did have some kind of a 3D spot, it would help out tremendously.
I think it wouldn't be a big issue if you took that ping system and not only had the ping system linger there for a couple seconds, but track at least one of the enemies in the vicinity that you pinged, because there is a lot of 3D spotting in the game, and some of the specialists have a lot of features that allow that 3D spotting. When you shoot your gun, you're spotted on the minimap. I mean, the minimap was generally crawling with red dots for me. The big issue was seeing anybody not on the UI, not on that minimap. It was, when you're looking on the map straight across it, you couldn't see anything if somebody was calling it out.
I would maybe not spotting for the entire team, but spotting for your squad, I think at the very least would be good, because obviously I'm not working with the 60 other people that are on my team at that particular time. I'm working with the 3 others that are in my squad. And when I want to be able to communicate something to them, I want it to be as effective as possible. If we can't get spotting, I would just like to see them in, I don't know, why can't we see, especially because it's a EA published game, why don't we see like an Apex style ping system going into Battlefield? Like, how is that not a thing yet? It just seems like that should be shared. Like, not exactly, but definitely elements.
Don't you think some companies have a certain sense of pride? Like, oh, well, we want to, we don't want to just steal from Apex, and them and Respawn. Like, we can make our own thing,
I think
maybe
pride,
that's what that
actually
is.
make it. How about that?
I think pride, though, would only really come into effect if they've actually made good games the last couple of times. Like, I really think that they're on. I really think they're on the chopping block here, though. I really do. I think that sentiment is low for the entire franchise. They've got to knock it out of the park. So why not do everything that you possibly can? And I think having that ping system would be a really good start for it.
It's a good point. Yeah, they didn't knock it out of the park in the beta. Like, I had no feedback on the ping system. It's very rudimentary and weird colors. I don't even know if I pinged anything, to be honest. But yeah, I used the specialists to do all the, or the robot dog to do all the spotting or target acquisition for me. I use it as a crutch actually because I play Boris the most. I use his little turret thing to spot everything, and not only did it 3D spot, it outlined the motherfucker too. So behind walls too. Oh, and you think that's the only guy that's gonna be able to do that? Watch out, what's coming up next.
Oh yeah.
But one of the biggest problems people are saying is like, we'll get into this later, of course, but in terms of UI, the little blue dot above everybody's head, your friendly's head, that actually disappears, behind walls and whatnot. But even through smoke, even though there was no smoke grenades, there were AI throwing smoke grenades, and you would lose your friendlies, and then at that point, the people, complaining about the factions and you can't tell who's who because everyone's the same. That's a big problem because you're relying almost 100% in the beta, of course, on the UI. And so that's an issue they probably are going to tackle. Let's be honest. We already see some of that UI changes coming up in the via the Hazard Zone trailer. And just like the way factions look. But I don't want to get off topic, of course, when it comes to factions and whatnot. But yeah, that's a huge problem in the beta when it came to like who's who or who's your friendlies,
Yeah, I think this actually, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it does kind of mix between the UI HUD elements topic and the specialist topic of you can't see and differentiate your teammates from your enemies. On one hand, yes, you're in past Battlefield games, you're used to that red marker, the red name, the red Dorito over somebody's head. And in this game, you get it, but it's so tiny, and then it conflicts with all the people with that little blue dot over your teammates. And then, of course, you've got that whole Team Fortress 2 phenomenon of there's a ton of heavy medics running around. You don't know who's who. They're on our team, they're on their team. You can't differentiate really quickly on a quick pass sometimes of who's who, and you just end up firing at everybody, and it's really, really needs to be worked on. I think the character models really need a unique color scheme, at least minimum, to make them friend or foe pretty obvious.
Just give them glowing lights. That's what I think Black Ops 3 and 4 did. They gave you little like chest indicators, leg indicators of like red or blue lights for friendlies and enemies. You saw them at a distance and you knew who it was, and you're like, okay, great, fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was.
You don't need a whole body outline. Just do a couple little glowy lights.
Was it like what was his name? Sawtooth, I think, on Twitter pointed that out on there was some concept art where some of the characters were wearing like a blue scarf, and then they had like blue bands on their uniforms at some point or something like that. So maybe that's what's going to happen. But it needs to pop out more than that. I think it needs to be a brighter, bolder color so that you can tell. I definitely agree there.
That's where the lights comes in. Yeah.
It's
just, and again, for me, like when I was playing this beta, the only way I ever knew an enemy was an enemy, besides that friendly marker that would pop in and out, was show name tag. That's the thing that we've had in Battlefield 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe not 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. It's that little name tag that comes up with the nameplate above their heads. And that was out to a really far distance this game, like 30 meters or some nonsensically far number. But if 3D spawning is inconsistent and we don't have that all the time, or we don't have actual ping systems working, that was the only way I knew to look at an enemy and say, hey, that's a guy who's coming towards me and he's got a big red name over his head. I guess I better shoot him, because like you said, the specialists are hard to tell sometimes. Foliage gets in the way. It's just not they're trying really hard to go arcade shooter after Battlefield 5. And I have but your UI is in the way, and your player models are in the way, and some of your gameplay mechanics are just in the way, and that's not what you're trying to do.
And I have a question to toggle on top of that is, okay, so you guys know, I'm sure most of you guys use the minimap a lot. Was there a feature in the game, or was it actually just a bug where teammates were showing up as red dots on the minimap?
Yes, that happened a lot, especially in vehicles. It happened more than in vehicles than on infantry.
Wow.
Okay.
I didn't spend too much time in vehicles, so I didn't know.
You would roll into the two D flags, and there'd be 20 enemies around on the minimap, but you'd look around and you're all teammates. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Maybe.
What about the flags? The headquarter flags would just every flag would be headquarters all of a sudden.
That's definitely a bug. Yeah.
Yeah, that was trippy. Oh man.
All right, so good stuff there on the UI and HUD elements. I think we covered a lot on that one. Next is map design and size. So I know that we only got one map in this beta, but I think it kind of maybe tells us a little bit about how their thinking is for the rest of the maps, and like with the sectors and how spaced apart some of these are going to be. But what did you guys think about the map size and the design? Incarnate?
Oh boy. So this was one of these smaller maps, right? Please correct me,
I
somebody.
think this was like the medium map.
Medium map. Okay. As a medium map, still, I gotta say, it's a little bit too big for comfort, even with 128 players. I found myself kind of bored at times, just kind of walking between flags. Of course, you can call in a vehicle, but if there's 6 of them on the map, because they are shared between HQ and infantry call-ins, you might not be able to spawn a vehicle at all times, or there might not be one on a flag at some times. Lord knows you're not going to be able to use the UI to call in a scout to help you out. Not that a friendly would ever pick you up in the first place, but that's a moot point. Yeah, so I thought the action was too interspersed. The map was too big for the amount of players, which is impressive that you somehow managed to pull off a medium-sized map that cannot facilitate 128 players comfortably, maintaining constant action, even with your sector system or with your flag system. It just didn't feel that engaging. I think the map itself looked cool. It looked great. I know there's been some feedback already, and they've made changes, and you can see it in some of the trailers about there being some open spaces, like on the runway for the missile launch from the like big headquarter building to the actual missile pad or rocket pad, and that's gotten some cover now, so that's good. But I wasn't overly enthusiastic about the map after having played it for a couple hours. It just didn't feel. It felt like a Battlefield map, but it just felt empty at times. It felt it didn't feel spectacular. Yeah, well, not even unnecessarily big. Like I could see what they were going for, but it just didn't. It didn't flow the way I think it was supposed to, or how they ever intended it, or however it plays in dev sessions. It did not play in public. Yeah. Everybody congregates on B. Everybody congregates over like the C flag, the lower C flag, not the tunnel one, but the one beneath it. People congregate sometimes at the rocket, but there's no cover there, so what does it matter? And then people will sometimes play on the A or F flags if they get bored. Yeah. It just wasn't that. The map flow was not there, and the map itself just felt empty at times or sterile.
I think the biggest problem for me was the fact that the map didn't have like a consistent, well, kind of like what you said, a flow to it. It didn't really make sense. Like, there weren't. I like to describe really good maps that I enjoy for Battlefield as having a line. Okay, so it has this is a defensible line or an attacking line that you got to go through. So like, for instance, Grand Bazaar, you have that B flag in the middle tunnel, and then on the outside, it pretty much, you could almost have like a line that cuts the map in half, right? And that's where the fights are kind of ebbing and flowing in between there. And every now and then you're going to be seeing that circular motion in it. But for the most part, you kind of know where those players are going to be coming from and where those players are going to be getting shot from and attacking or defending at. That right there, I did not find in this map. It was kind of spotty. Like you said, it was pretty much they were over on C, D, or B. And I really didn't find much action happening over there at the rocket. For the most part, it was like maybe 1 or 2 guys at the rocket. You kill them, and then you just wait for, what was it, like 20 seconds to cap the flag, and then you left. I mean, there really wasn't much action over there in that spot. Every now and then you'd find a good fight over onto A, but that was really if you were just base raping the other team at that point and they had nowhere else to go, was my experience anyways. I really do like the way that they have the sectors set up. So the fact that you capture a sector, it takes a chunk of tickets instead of just having a bleed that goes into effect, or at least that's the way it felt like to me every time. I think that was pretty cool. I like that aspect of it. I did think that the spawns needed to be worked on at those particular locations, but I think that they have fixed out a lot of those issues. My biggest concern when it comes to spawns on those particular flags is what are you going to do? And we experience this over on C flag when you have 3-4 helicopters up in the air and they have no intention of capturing those flags, but they're going to absolutely just farm for days, and there is nothing that those infantry players can do. Even if an AA rolls up, he's dead almost instantly because he's just jumped on by 2 or 3 helicopters all at once. That I do find a bit concerning when that does end up happening. But I don't know. I think that the new movement with the speed of everything fit the maps better. Yes, it was running simulator at times, but it wasn't the worst that I've seen for Battlefield. I mean, we've seen some pretty bad maps in the past here, especially in this last game, which is absolutely ridiculously large maps. And I still think the map that's supposedly supposed to be bigger than Hamada is going to be just gross. I do not look forward to playing that map whatsoever.
Better be so many vehicles.
Oh my god. Oh my god. But I would like to see different versions of these maps. I don't know if it's doable. I don't know how doable it is. I would like, supposedly we can do it in Portal. You can change the playable areas of it, but there are some, like for instance, if we could do like just the 2D points B and like maybe the rocket, like that would be a good playable area.
What about the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One play areas?
If I could touch on that, actually. So that's something I wanted to say. I totally forgot it. So they confirmed that on Twitter, one of the devs, at least as far as his knowledge was concerned, that you could use Portal to play the Conquest Small variants on PC and next-gen consoles. So this is my interloping theme for the entire night. Portal will save 2042, and not just save 3 and Bad Company 2, but it'll save 2042 as well.
And because
that map gets shrunk down, and all of a sudden, wow, it's actually playable. There's action, and it's 128 players, and it's still a big map. Yeah, you know, even if there's bots everywhere. Sorry, that was my digression there.
No, that's good. I didn't know that. I did not know that a dev had said
cool,
that.
Huh?
So that's awesome.
Unless they changed their mind before launch, that was what it said on Twitter. Yeah.
Well, now that we've said it, they're gonna shade everybody like, oh fuck no, we're not doing that.
No, they liked it. Nope, get it out.
But you know, I think that the map does need a little bit of work. I really enjoyed the fights over there onto that B side. That was absolutely hilarious to be ziplining up on top of there, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're seeing like 20 guys spreading out over the helipad, and they're looking up at the sky or some crap like that, and it's just like, okay, you're dead, reload, you rinse and repeat. That was fun. And then being able to parachute down like super fast into some of those other sites, that was really fun there with that. But yeah, I think map design definitely needs some tweaking. I really am curious to see how these smaller maps end up playing out. If the one concern that I did have with this map, I think regarding like just playable, like with vehicles, it seemed like there should have been more land vehicles, and there weren't enough. I think you said this, Incarnate, like there just wasn't enough to get around, and especially there weren't. Like,
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't think that they need to get away from vehicles spawning at flags. Like they're really toting this whole calling in a vehicle, but you know there are going to be times when people are going to call in vehicles, jump in, get to a spot, jump out, and then how long does it take for that to respawn into that tablet? You know, how long is that going to take? I really think that they do need to have vehicles spawn at flags so that when you do have a situation like I did over at the, I think it was the missile, go over there, kill 2 guys, cap it, and then it's like, okay, either find a zip line or start running.
Well, yeah, there are some scattered around, like the Tesla truck is on, if you're looking towards the B building from the rocket, it's on the right side. You always get that one. That's always spawning there. But you're right. The main headquarters just don't have enough vehicles. A lot of the new players that come in are like, well, what the fuck do I do? Well, they don't know about the call-in system, so they're like, I guess I'll run. And then you see like 30 new players that never played Battlefield in their life run towards the first flag that's 350 meters away. And you see that a lot, because once they cap the first base, you know, the given flag, they all 30 of them or 40 of them run to the B building on foot, which is not for design. That's not how your people are supposed to do this. Let me go through this real quick. When you guys mention flow, I kind of cringe because you guys have not listened to what the designers have been saying about flow.
What did they say about flow?
There is no flow. There's not supposed to be flow in the Battlefield maps. This is a new conquest system surrounded by the whole term clusters. Okay, this is how Daniel Berlin has explained this. You can find the video on GameSpot, I think, where they did the EA Play thing. They had like talk and whatnot. And then he's like, it's like there's a specific terms of cluster fighting, and then when you win that battle in, let's say, C1, C2, you are not to run to the next place. You are to call in a vehicle, and you are to then take a vehicle to the next place when it comes to the flow you guys are talking about. It's supposed to be a by design a downtime after you've won that battle of C1 and C2,
Right.
for example.
Just like
And
Battlefield
then-
5, which was a famous hit.
Right. There is the cluster battles is what they're going for in terms of pacing. So yeah, there's no flow. There's no like anything like that. That's how it's designed. You are to go into one area, spawn there repeatedly, win the battle, and then take a vehicle somewhere else. That's how the big maps are going to work. And like Incarnate said, you're going to have more vehicles, especially on that. What was that, Antarctica map or something? The biggest one they got? I
No,
think?
that's not the Antarctica one. It's like the one that looks like Damavand, the one in the mountains.
The one. Isn't that the Antarctica one? The one with the where the Davaman Peak drop. That's the Antarctica.
Is that the Antarctica one? I thought that was...
Yeah. The
Okay.
snow map. Yeah. So, like, let's say there's 2 sectors on that mountain. We already know all this stuff over there. Yeah. There's the one where you have the Davaman Peak kind of jump, and then behind it, there's another sector there too. I think within the mountain or on the side of it. And they want you to fight there, right? Bring vehicles or whatever there and fight there. Once you're done, you now have to strategize. This is what Daniel Berlin said. You have to strategize and get everybody together to get on vehicles or to use a specific specialist like Sundance to fly or drive to the next cluster zone. And that's where you fight again. That is how and why these maps are so huge. They are not meant to have flow at all, especially on foot.
So this is what I predict is going to happen. You're going to get players that are going to.
They're saying this.
You're going to get
not
players
me.
that are going to grab vehicles. They're going to start going to the next point, and then the air is going to commence to farm the shit out of them.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna straight up interject here
Take
and say I
advantage.
disagree with the large consensus here, especially of Brett and Incarnate, that Orbital was somehow was not a great map. I think it was a very strong beta map, considering what was broken and what wasn't effective in that beta. Mobile AA sucked. Did not counter air vehicles at all. The jets sucked. They could barely kill anything at all. So of course there was overpowered air vehicles everywhere. The majority of what Julian just said is absolutely correct. They're meant to be on clusters. The B, D1, and D2 flag is where the majority of fights happened, and that's where you had the most intensity, and that's where everybody played like 80% of the time, right? The secondary place was probably C1, C2. In order to fix the map, to make it better, they either need to put a third C flag there in that area so that you just don't get capped out and you can actually fight more there, or you need to move those 2 flags farther north so there's not a big, huge running distance over the mountain. The A and F flags on that map are specifically made to kind of funnel people out of the fight, so there's not 120 players on 3 flags. They don't want that giant clusterfuck on those 3 flags. They want to kind of divide people out. If you are a player who's spawning on those A and F flags and are complaining about walking to the other ones, that's your problem. However, that doesn't mean that DICE should not be putting a lot more ground vehicles like the Tesla cars and Jeeps all over the map. If you're going to have a map that size, you need to move more ground vehicles that are not tanks or anything, just casual Jeeps and stuff to move players around.
Yeah, I agree on that. They should have just a little bit more. But like OG Smurf in the chat said, Orbital has way too much wasted space. Okay, be careful what you wish for when it comes to that wasted space, because that's going to come in terms of the pacing by design, okay? If you now eliminate all that wasted space, you now have clusterfucks at every single sector, and you won't be able to win any battle at all. And it has been demonstrated this before, and Gravity may know this in Battlefield 2 mods, in Battlefield 3 mods, where they've increased the player counts. Every single flag was a total disaster. You couldn't capture anything. This is their answer to increasing the player count on their terms. They had to do something with the formula for conquest, and this is what they came up with: this cluster fighting. I thought it was really fun. I loved spawning. I mean, the only place I didn't have fun was B. B was this, or Bravo was a disaster because you just die so many times there. It's crazy. It's for the Zoomers, dude. That's the place to go. It is crazy.
I was about to say, I was like, B was the most fun that I had, other than over
yeah,
there
I
on.
know, but me, I'm not like
was it
that.
D2?
Like
D2 was the other fun place that I had.
But like I said, keeping those air vehicles in check once they actually give the
yeah.
counters will be a lot better up on that rooftop. And two other factors here. One, once they introduce the new specialists, that map is going to be wingsuit heaven off the top of the peak tower and the rocket, so movement's not going to be as bad. And two, people complaining, well, it takes a long time to walk. Walking from the A to the B flag wasn't bad. Walking from the A and F flags to the C flag wasn't bad. It's like people haven't played Conquest large battlefield maps before. Dan, I mean, Hamada, Dragon Valley. You guys have walked far more than just between those two flags before. And it's been, I mean, there's far worse examples in past maps than that one.
All maps that I avoid playing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the ones that I named are not good. But I'm just saying, if you're going to complain about it, those are, specific examples of there have been bigger maps.
But those are maps that I've complained about this very thing before. So, I mean, I don't really see where that argument
comes in. But there's only two flags. And it's not like an El Sandan where there's nowhere to play. There's huge chunks of orbital where you can't play.
Yeah. By design.
Oh, and the cluster system, like you were saying, that should be grouping players together. But I think when you, like my idea when I saw the cluster system first revealed, and what I've kind of always had like a mental impression of, was that it would be mini conquest sections, and it didn't feel like that to me.
Yeah.
When you have a cluster system, you think, okay, a cluster is like 3 or more. We had D1, D2, C1, C2, B, A, and F. And where's E? E by itself. They were all like, single flags. So if I'm thinking, cluster system, what I would like to see maybe is that, B, D, and D all become one cluster. And then, like the C flags get a third one, and then maybe give each of those base gimmies one, and then maybe the E flag gets something, or maybe E and F go together, and then A gets another flag or something. I don't know. But like if you want that downtime between flags, then you need to make sure that fighting between that cluster system is intense and it goes on for a while, because I don't think I had engaged fights between C flags or, at A and F flag. Once it was capped. Same thing with E flag. The D flags had a bit of fighting because people would cluster underneath that D tunnel way underneath the
tunnel.
And that was just a mess.
I
that was
loved
terrible.
getting those quads and 5 kills at a time with a nade.
Terrible design. Like, why not make 3 doors at least? I don't know. Whatever.
Well, that's one of the sections are going to add the big crawler on the right in front of it. Yeah,
and that's good. That's great. But like, if you're gonna do cluster systems and you're gonna expect people to fight in these clusters and do that for back and forth battle in this localized section of the battlefield on this massive map, then you need to make those battles last. And when you have a 2-2 thing, you're not allowing for that 3 flag rotation. Like this is Conquest Small from Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 3 in a nutshell. That's what it should be. It's like a 3 flag burn in this little sector. And then once you get all 3 of those flags, then people are respawning elsewhere. But if it's 2 flags, you lose that burn instantly.
I'm confused as to where this 3 flag battle isn't happening. Were you not rotating between the D and B flags? Like, you get knocked off the B flag, but you can go. It was like this triangle of flags.
But I don't think
I'm saying they should be interconnected. I don't know why B flag has to be all by itself and worth all these points, and you get the high ground. Yeah. Same thing for E, but E was in the middle of nowhere.
Shanghai Tower was. I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Is that a good design of map? No, I don't think so.
So
Shanghai Tower is terrible.
I kind of agree with what you're saying there, Incarnate. Like, the cluster needs to have an actual cluster. I was expecting, when they were talking about clusters of flags, which, by the way, this was our next topic, so we might as well just segue into the new Conquest mode. But I was expecting to see, like, objectives within, I don't know, maybe 25 yards to 100 yards of each other, like super close. And that way, you have a lot of fighting kind of going back and forth and a lot of rotating within those clusters of objectives. I didn't really think that they were going to be, because, I mean, let's be honest, D1 and D2 That's totally two different flags. That's not a cluster. That's they're so far away that it was like you were saying, you could rotate between that one, B and D, pretty easily. And I mean, really, the rotation was really from Bravo to both of those Delta flags, right? You own B, you just constantly barrage both of those D sites over and over and over again. So I would have liked to have seen, in regards to this whole cluster system, to have these sites where, like, let me find an example maybe that we had on this particular map. So for instance, on B, I think that a good cluster system would have been, you have the flag on top, you have the flag sort of in the middle of the tower, and then you have a flag all the way at the bottom, right? That would have been a good idea of a cluster of objectives that you have to have in order to own the tower. And I know, Julian, you don't like it because it'd be completely...
That might be too much. That might be too much, and where there's nobody anywhere else.
That's just the problem. It's just an example. You know, then you know, have like over onto Delta, you know, where you had the two separate buildings that were out there, or I'm sorry, you had a building and then you had like the crates. Maybe you put a couple more crates out there. You have another objective out there. You have one in the building, and then maybe, you know, one like in the tunnel or somewhere over in there. Like, have it to where they're close enough to where you are going to be heavy close quarters fighting on those objectives. And I think that was what I was expecting when they said cluster. That would have been...
I can put a tangent in this real quick. So if you went back to like the original like Fighting in Dubai trailer, I think it was, the Sandstorm map, they showed those cluster sections on there, and there was a cluster for the village, and there was a cluster for the auditorium, and there was a cluster for like the downtown, which was like 5 flags. I don't remember much about that one, but I remember the outside too. And they both had 3 flags. One was like in the stadium, and there was like 2 sections outside the stadium. On the other side, there was a village that was like 1 flag in the village and then 2 outside that village. But they seemed, like you said, close together. Like these are like, it was like mini domination. Like you took domination and put it in conquest.
Good
that's
example.
what I was thinking of. Because that's exactly what I think would be, you know, close. Here's your close, awesome, engaging infantry action, and then these wide spans of you know, where you need to make a call in or take a vehicle or, you know, call in a tank or whatever it might be. Then you go those distances between these sections, and that's where the vehicles might pick you off, or that's where you might decide to change course, and you have that downtime, and that makes sense. But I didn't feel that downtime between the flags here in this beta map. I felt like once a sector was capped, I was like, okay, well, just go to the next. And that fight that I just had wasn't really that great, unless I was on the D flags or the B flag.
Right, yeah, it was too quick. I mean, every round's going to be different, so yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying there wasn't possibilities in the map and in the game mode, but it just, I don't know, yeah, it didn't feel fleshed out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 6 other maps that are going to have completely different types of clustering, and might be surprised. Maybe we'll have that 3 tower, or what Brett's talking about. Like,
I loved how I mentioned that, and Julian immediately is rolling his eyes, going like, "Oh, hell no!"
Give me BF3 Zeba Tower, but
all right, yeah. So let's move on.
Map right there.
So let's move on.
Okay.
All right. Next thing is going to be specialists. This is something that's a hot topic. Everybody has been talking about specialists, whether we need to go back to a class system, whether we need to, you know, do away with specialists altogether. Specialists are good. Some people absolutely love it. I kind of on the fence. I have my opinions on both sides. I think I have a good compromise that they could implement. I don't know how hard it would be, but Incarnate, let's start off with you. What do you think about specialist?
Okay. Yeah, hot topic, definitely, like you said. I understand what they're going for. I think on a MTX side of things, it makes sense. Fine. You gotta do what you gotta do to keep up with, you know, all the other games out there. But gameplay wise, I think Battlefield does suffer. And that comes from, like we said earlier, both teams having the same specialists. So you don't really know who's who sometimes, you know, bad visibility. That really stinks. I think the biggest thing that specialist does, which is crazy to me because they each get their own little, you know, class designation of like, this is a medic, this is an engineer, this is support, this is recon. Cool. But it doesn't really change anything because they all have their own personal gadgets. So what they should do, at least in my opinion, is go back to not only a faction system, and with 10 that should be doable. Maybe throw in another one or another 2 or whatever, just to kind of balance out numbers. But to also give these specialists.
Wait, you talking about 2 factions? Like add in more factions or add more specialists?
I'm saying like Russian versus American. So some specialists go to American, some go to Russian. I think that would be helpful in kind of making distinctions if they can't do like the color gradients on the player model.
So what you're saying is you cannot have the same specialist on both teams.
I think that is a option. That
agree.
doesn't have to be the option, but that is a option if they cannot do color coding on the player model. But the other thing that they need to do is give these, again, specialists that have certain classes. Some of them are assault, some of them are engineer. Give them certain tools by default. This was things that we took for granted back in 3 and 4, where every medic has some form of healing or defib. I mean, 4 kind of changed that, but 3, every medic had med and not med, but they always had defib.
Right.
Great, that's fantastic. That's something you can always count on somebody having to do, or at least having the mandatory option of doing. And that's something that I did not see much of in the 2042 beta, because people are going to choose the grapple hook and they're going to choose the rocket launcher. And that's what I did, because that's the most way, that's how you have fun. You go fly around, you shoot rockets, you go die, respawn, do it again. There is no incentive right now in the specialist system to take a med bag, to take an assault kit or ammo bag, to take defibs or anything like that. So why not just give that by default, like the medic class in BF5? It had an ability to revive without having to pick a revive option. Same thing with the support class in BF5. It had a wrench, even though it didn't, select that.
Well, I mean,
just do that.
Falk does that.
Okay, well, that's great. That's one
revive.
specialist. That's great. That's one specialist. If they are a support specialist, give them a rep torch or give them an ammo bag, and just do that by default. And then you also get your, you can choose a rocket launcher or you can choose your specialist item. How about that? So if you're McKay and you want your grapple hook, he's also an engineer, right? So he gets by default the rep torch or AT mines or something that, a default item. And then he also has to choose between a grapple hook or a rocket launcher or,
so what you're suggesting is that the specialist may not actually have a specific tool that's only his.
I think that the specialist will have that specific tool, but they also get a class tool. That class tool is mandatory. That is auto applied. That's a revive to the assault class or a rep torch to a support class. And then they also get an option based on whichever specialist you are to also equip the specialist item of choice. And that's because you choose the specialist with these passive traits and the option for like a grapple hook and then of course the ADS speed, or you can give up that grapple hook and run something like a rocket launcher. So that way they have to do a class specific thing, or at least the option of doing it. That is mandatory. And you get a secondary choice of a rocket launcher and a grapple, or one of the two.
Right. Here's an example, I think, of what Incarnate's saying. So let's say you are Boris, right, an engineer. And he has let's say if what Incarnate's proposing here actually happens, you'll have the option to use the turret or a rocket launcher of some sort, right? Any type of like that. Then the other option could be, you have the other gadget like a repair tool. Like you can role play your engineer. Right now, you kind of can't because you're locked. You can't have that engineer combo wombo, the rocket launcher and the repair tool. You can't do that. But with Incarnate's idea, people want to do that, man. They love that.
That's fantastic. But I just like people are not going to choose rep torch. People are not going to choose ammo bag or a med crate or whatever. Because why would you when you can choose rocket launcher and you can choose grapple hook and you can choose all these great things that I don't want to do team play if I don't have to. I mean, that's just selfish human nature. So why give them the option, right? Just have a default. Here's a way to be nice to your teammates, and then also pick your fun option, right?
Well,
why not?
So, are you done, Incarnate?
I'm done.
Okay. So, to what you just said, like your last point there, the people who I've seen that like the specialist are the ones who don't typically play in what we would consider the team role, right? One of the very strong setups that I saw that was going out there was playing Falk with the med gun, a armor plate, and having one of the powerful weapon ARs, whatever it was, the really one that was everyone was using. Anyways, they were going around just smoking everything, it was domination, right? You run over a dead body, you get a new armor plate, pop the armor plate in, you get hit real hard, you heal up, you throw, shoot the dart down at the ground, you run over it. You constantly had heals, you constantly had armor plates going. Like, it was a very, very tough setup to have to beat. And so, like I said, there are some people who love that about it. Like, you can build your ultimate soldier, whatever it is that you want to do, as much killing as possible. Like, you can do that now. And I can see where people are going to be really excited about that. Me, on the other hand, I kind of like middle of the road. I like the idea. I am not opposed to everybody being able to shoot every gun. Doesn't bother me. In my opinion, back in Battlefield 4, we pretty much had that ability with all kit weapons. I mean, you could be a recon and an engineer and a medic, and you can all shoot the ACR or whatever it was. You could have that same kind of impact on the map. Obviously, there were some guns that were more specialized, but for the most part, I mean, you could do it all anyways back then. So I don't have a problem with that. Let everybody use whatever they want. But I do think that there needs to be some sort of class structure. So what I would like to see, and I think Incarnate was kind of touching on this, have it set up to where you have 2 or 3 specialists that are medic, 2 or 3 specialists that are engineer, 2 or 3 specialists that are support, 2 or 3 specialists that are recon. They have those, like, that's what they're supposed to do. Those are their jobs. And then you can have customized traits or gadgets within that set that do those things. So another specialist that would come in, maybe they have the ability to, I don't know, send a drone out there that could revive people. I'm not saying that should be a thing, guys. I'm just saying, like, as an example. But his main goal is healing, right? His main goal is reviving, something like that. And as an engineer, maybe you have another one that has an ability to where if he's in the gunner seat of a vehicle, he can repair vehicles that are around him. I realize, a lot of people are going to go, it's not realistic. Who gives a fuck? It's going to be fun. But something like that. If you have those specialists that are in that kind of category that all have those traits, like, that's what I think that they needed to do with these. And that's what I think that the gadgets need to be specific in that regard. I don't necessarily think that you have to have a heal pack and have to have an ammo pack and have to have these things. I think you can give specialized traits to each of those specialists if they are in those classes that could do that same exact job to kind of fulfill that role. I do think that they need to get away from the ability for everybody to run a rocket. And the reason why I say that is because if you are a tank, by the way, first of all, air vehicles, I think the ones that were complaining about constant having all of the beeping and all that shit going on all the time, it was because you were such a nuisance that people felt like they had to do it. But that will go away eventually, though, I think. As far as the ground vehicles, and Gravity, you can kind of touch on this because you played a lot in the tank, whereas I didn't. But I felt like the tank, when it showed up, it died instantly. There were like 5 people all throwing rockets at it, boom, as soon as it showed up. And it was all the time, everywhere. And in other games in the past, that wasn't necessarily the case. Like, you did run into pockets of infantry where there was nobody that had rockets. And the tank had, a few moments until somebody could either respawn on a squad mate or respawn on the flag before he really had anything to kill him or to hurt him. But in this game, land vehicles just had no chance whatsoever. They died almost instantly. I think they need to get away with everybody having access to those type of weapons. It needs to be in a certain category where it might be like 3 specialists have access to it, and then that's it.
Okay. So let me do a little bit of cleaning up here. First, Brett, I completely agree with you. Rockets do need to be toned down as far as minimize the amount of classes that can use them.
Did you really say cleaning up?
I should, because I've got a lot to respond to right now.
That hurts.
Well, whatever you want to call it, Brett. I've got a lot to respond to. Let me give an alternative solution to a counter proposal for the specialist thing. Go back to the class system of classic Battlefields. This whole specialist system of having these unique character models and these unique voiceover lines and everything, they take a lot of time to make. They take a lot of time to design. They take a lot of time to implement during the game, to put in the game. So yeah, they're going to add more of them over time, and that'll diversify the game experience. Sure, but it's going to take a lot of time for them to do it, and I know why they did it. It's because they had this idea of Apex and Call of Duty Warzone, and they wanted this unique character-driven soldier for a battle royale mode, right? Applying that to a Battlefield game doesn't really to the main game. I don't think works. Now, if you were to look back at, like, say, Battlefield 3, you had these different squad perk options. You had the flak, you had the cover, you had the explosives. Nobody ever used that crap right. Nobody did. Nobody, unless you were playing in a group on VoIP or something like that, nobody ever like nailed these things. An alternative solution to this is you go back to the clear and well-defined class player models from past Battlefield games that you can clearly identify as US and Russian, so you don't have to eliminate that problem altogether. And then what you do is you add another specialist perk to each class, and you can have multiple of them. So you have, for the assault kit, you can have the grappling hook, the wingsuit, the medic bag, or the medic pistol. You can have different specialist things there for that class, and they're not necessarily unique to that class. Other classes can have them, but there are some specialist roles and abilities that more conform to certain classes. Like the recon drone, obviously the support might not get it, or the assault player might not get it. It might just be a recon thing. But you can diversify the player class experience with these specialist roles and give that original thing that Incarnate was saying of, the medic is still going to have the med bag and the revive, but he can also have a grappling hook. You can have these original roles plus the specialist item, and you can at the same time limit the amount of things causing explosives. Recon, we can go back to that BF3, BF4 system where the roles of the different classes could still access the majority of the weapon kits, but it had limits. Snipers couldn't have rockets, anti-tank medics couldn't have rockets. It was you can diversify it a bit. You can make supports do repairs instead of just engineers. You can mix and match these things, but it would eliminate the specialist role. It would make the team fighting much more clear and concise, and you can still keep those abilities. And I think that's a different alternative to this whole specialist system for the base game.
Comment on this real quick. I mean, as much as that might be a good idea, it's not going to happen because specialists are not going anywhere.
Oh, I'm not saying they. Yeah.
Yeah. But saying get rid of specialists is just, it's not going to happen. It's a non-option. They're here to stay whether we like it or not. So integrating the specialists themselves into certain classes is much more viable than just saying get rid of them, because they've worked on these things a lot. There's 10 of them. There's going to be probably 20 or 25 at the end of the game, whenever that lifespan comes to an end, unless it gets canned in March.
Imagine.
It's Anthem. So that's not really too viable. And going back to the not every class should have AT thing that you said, Brett, and Gravity kind of built upon. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with every class having AT, but you need to then scale the armor and the vehicles accordingly. And they are not balanced.
Easy.
Yeah, and that's very easy. I shouldn't say very easy, but I mean, what you can do then, it doesn't have to be every class rocket launcher. It can be, if we took a traditional 4-class system, engineer still has rockets. Then support gets EMP grenades. Then recon gets C4, and assault gets make up some other future tech. So everybody has a way to deal with vehicles, but not everybody has a way to do the same thing. So if everybody picks medic, they can stun a tank with EMP nades for 5 seconds each person. But they're not going to kill it, right? So you still need that class diversity, but the tank can't just roll in, clean up 20 people, and then roll the hell out like BF4.
I just think with your system, there's not they don't have anywhere near enough designs or even designs in the future for these specialists to make them class specific or anything, or diversify the class. Like if you would have 3 on the medic or something, yeah.
But okay, so if we have 10 people, 10 classes, okay, let's do 8 because that's easier. So if we have 8 specialists and we give 2 to each role, and we're ignoring factions, so each team gets both these. So then you have 2 medics, and they each get a defib by default, and then they each get to choose between say McKay's a medic, and say the old lady grandma syringe lady is a medic. So then you can choose between you get your default med crate or defib, whatever that default equipment is. You also get the option of that perk slot that can be a specialist weapon, so grapple hook or dart gun, or it can be something like an all class gadget. So then you have your forced team play option, and you also have your specialist and or generic option. I feel like that creates class roles while also creating specialist diversity that is the player's choice in that class role.
We had that already in Battlefield 4. You don't have to select the defibs. You can do like in the what's the little tiny shotgun if you want.
You can be a support with UCAV and mortar and be a total scumbag. I don't think people really prefer that. I mean, because if you're gonna have classes, you do want people to confine. You kind of want to. You're hoping people choose classes to do the thing the class is supposed to do. So giving them the option out of it is kind of dumb. But also penalizing them for not wanting to do it initially is also kind of dumb. Like giving downsides because you can't do one thing because you chose another.
That's the key.
Stinks. Right. So giving the ammo crate or giving the repair torch or giving the defib by default and doesn't penalize the player on an equipment slot. It's just a default thing given. Fantastic. And then you also give them the option to do a specialist thing or do a generic all kit, whatever that might be.
When people think Battlefield, they think what is standard. We have been conditioned to play as class system. This is like a Battlefield staple.
Well, and class system doesn't have to go away, or it can go away rather. No, it can go away, but you have to do it in a way that people are going to respect it. And this is such a kick into the wind. It's so far removed from Battlefield because people aren't used to this. They think specialist, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Black Ops. They think, they're just copying that. There's no real thought to this besides a nameplate boiler tag on the specialist icon saying, this is a medic. But you don't really feel like it's a medic unless you're that one grandma lady with the syringe. You don't feel like a medic otherwise. You don't feel like a support.
Anybody get revived in that game, really?
Unless it was with my own squad, no.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you? Yeah. Just let him bleed out.
Yeah. Julian, real quick, do you have anything more to say on this one?
Well, we all know why the specialists were made.
Yeah,
it's the industry trend
to sell,
and it makes
skins.
money. Yep. Yeah, they can make any excuse they want. That's literally the first thing they were talking about in that roundtable that they had. Why did we go specialists? And they're like, well, we want to give the player freedom to choose whatever they want because people in the past were complaining that we're too restricted. So they're like, we don't want the class system in 2042, but there is an option which is great, and that is Portal, and you can have all the classic class system you want. So there you go.
All right. Well, we'll probably touch a little bit more on specialists just in their gadgets here in just a few minutes, but we're going to move on to our next topic. This is a hot topic. I don't know really how much we can spend on it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, I think, for the most part, but AI, bots, whatever you want to call them, non-player characters in the game doing stuff, doing things like throwing smoke grenades at you instead of shooting a gun and all kinds of wacky antics. But Incarnate, let's go ahead and start off with you. AI, what you think?
I'm not against it. I think it's a interesting way to solve a issue that they've had for a while, which is like region population or late night population servers. I'm all for the ability for people to play with bots. I think that is a cool little feature that they can do for people in their custom games when they spool up a server. You might not have 100 people to get into a game with you. Cool. Awesome. I do think it is a kind of a negative thing in terms of public matchmaking. It's not the worst thing in the world in a public game because at the end of the day, who really cares? I know some people are going to be insulted that they just killed 50 people and realized all of them are bots and they're not as good as they think they were.
I saw so many YouTubers mad because they were like, I got this really cool clip and they were all AI.
What I think is so it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think an easy solution to this is just give people the option to queue into bot servers and wait for it to fill up, or give them the option to wait a little bit longer and queue directly into a full 128 person match. If that is an option. But if you're queuing at 3 a.m. in Australia and there's no live matches, then you are forced into an AI match until more people get online. Fine, when it is an option, give people the option to wait a little bit longer to get into a full genuine Battlefield 128 person experience. But it solves a need to an issue, or it's a need. It's a solution to an issue that's been needed for a while, but the implementation is a little bit heavy-handed.
Especially with how inexperienced dice are with bots. Like short of a couple of BF3, BF4 single players. I mean, even the single players from BF1 and BF5, there's no iteration or increase in intelligence in those bots. They still do the same dumb things of grouping up in a helicopter and hovering over a flag, or
you can tell when the bots are and who the players are. They move like bots.
Yeah. The biggest problem with bots that I have, not necessarily the impact that they have on a round or capturing flags, which is kind of nice. It's the fact that they are able to take limited vehicles, especially the important ones, from real players and not give them back.
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. That's a problem. And
Ooh.
I understand that could be changed, that could be fixed, but I like the idea of having bots to supplement at least a limited number of players, and I like the idea of them being down the road, being there for more casual game modes. So I don't really mind them as much. And when we're in full servers, I mean, when the public thing went, we never I don't think I hit a bot for 2 days. Like there was just full servers all around. I think in the future that's gonna be a problem. But in the future, I don't. Maybe your experience was different, Brett.
Oh yeah.
But I think in the future, with what Incarnate just said about the smaller map sizes being available in Portal, I feel like maybe as the game starts, winding its way down, that everybody will just shift to Portal. Everybody will just shift to 32v32 on the smaller map and call it a day, and there won't be as many bots in the game.
So for me, bots, I don't like them. My experience in the beta was I had maybe 5 games that stayed at 64. The rest of them had some manner of bots on Thursday and Friday. I think both of those days, when I started playing the game, I had probably my first 3 games where it was 30 bots or more. So 15 to 20 on each side of the map. And then finally they'd start to fill up, but for the rest of the night it was pretty much just around the 55 to 60 range of players, and then there were bots coming in and out all the time. I didn't like it. I felt incredibly cheated when I went around and all of a sudden I was shooting people, and I felt like it was a hollow game, like I was in some kind of practice server where I was shooting AI. It was what made it worse was that they were just it was obvious. I mean, like I said, I had bots throwing smoke grenades at me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is going on? It was just stupid. What I would like to see for bots, because I agree to an extent, to have the servers at least feel like they're filled up is something that they need to do. I didn't like bots back in Titanfall, but I did like the fact that they were, for the most part, clustered up in certain areas of the map, and it was fairly easy to discern them from regular players. I think that needs to be the case here in Battlefield. They need to be something to where they visually look different. They don't look like a specialist, and they, for the most part, are clustered in certain areas of the map where they will be hanging out all the time, so you can kind of know that that's what that is. Now, I don't know if they need to be doing certain things in those areas or what, but I do not like the fact that I can be running into a flag. I see 2 people who are down. I run up to them, I revive them, and guess what? I revived a bot instead of an actual person, and he gets up and does absolutely nothing and ends up dying. And then when I'm trying to get into cover once again, I end up dying. And then the guy that's actually playing, who I could have revived and maybe had him get into cover and survive, well, he's having to go back to the respawn screen. Shit like that really frustrated me within the game, and I think that needs to change. I need to know what is a bot and what isn't a bot by just looking at it, being able to look at it and go, that's not a player. I know that for sure.
Wrong, but I'm pretty sure the bots did have like the default soldier.
They did, models, but you had to mouse over them. There's going to be default. I'm going to tell you what, I'm not wearing skins in the main game when it comes out. I never put skins on.
No, not default specialist, like default soldier, not even specialist.
No, they were like McKay's and yeah,
they were.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, what? There were AI bots that were McKay's?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were.
I'm pretty sure I saw a squad of bots that were just the generic soldier man.
I saw most of the bots that I saw were specialists.
Yes, they were specialists. So
Okay, well, yeah,
and the
that's-
problem
I like to see-
and the
I like
problem
to see
was is
proof
that
of
when
that.
you are mousing over them, you have to like look directly at that blue dot in order for the name to pop up to see AI at the end of the name.
I think you're wrong. I don't think that's correct at all.
It's possible there's a bug.
specialist.
Let's
Oh
just
yeah,
go with that.
yeah. It was a player, but no, the AI have their own specific set of default skins. There's no AI or specialist.
If I can
I
touch
like
on
to
the
see.
Titanfall thing,
I
though,
like to see proof of
If
that, too, by the way.
they look incredibly close to a specialist, and I mean, it takes a lot to be able to discern them. There needs to be something drastic with them to be able to tell the two apart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I could look at a McKay and look at a bot side by side, and I couldn't tell the difference unless I couldn't tell the difference. I thought they were the same. Just gonna say that
with
right
the
now.
extra
with the bot.
customization, you won't be able to tell.
I think the general consensus
With the
here is
extra
that the
customization.
community is going to be split on AI in their main public games forever. That's just it's going to be. They were going to be like this before they actually played with them, and they're going to be like this forever. The problem is you make bots too strong. You know, you give them somehow laser beam aim, and suddenly people are going to be complaining bloody murder about how accurate the bots are. You know, they're going to have problems with that. You make them too dumb, and well, then there's rank 1 players that have the same skill level. But I mean, they're just placeholders, and they're not great. They're not a solution to this problem. And on the topic of the other AI that we're not just talking about the player bots, let's talk about the Sentry AI and the RoboDog AI, which was also absolutely terrible. The robot dog, everybody thought, oh, this is going to be cool, would run past 10 enemies, not firing a shot. You know, like, oh, okay, this is cool. Just wandered into places and got stuck half the time. Okay, sure.
He's a dog, though. He just sniffs.
But at other times there would be people sitting on that, sniping off that balcony, the one of the towers you had the zip line up to near the E flag, that you would never have known were there. But somehow the dog will go, hey, they'll start shooting at it. And like, oh, well, this is cool. Now you're gonna start shooting at something that you can't hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
the dog had like a 100-meter range at that 100-meter mark where it was effective. Like I had a dog at the A flag who was shooting at infantry on the lower side of the B flag, but then he walked up to 2 enemies that had just killed me, like in the forest between B and C or something, and he just walked in circles around a tree as they walked around him in a tree or something. It was the AI pathing was not there for the dog, and the sentry seemed to be a bit better, but is it really fun getting killed by a sentry who zaps your health instantly?
No.
I don't know.
And I think the
Probably
big
not.
problem is exactly that, is that the bot is going to be there and piss players off, not because you killed a bot, but because that bot soaked up damage for the actual player standing next to him that kills you immediately afterward.
That's fair. Yeah, it's totally fair.
All right. Anybody got anything else on AI? Good.
Nope.
All
Or my
right.
fish AI.
So the yes.
Penguin AI.
So the next one is going to be vehicles and armor. We're going to talk about armor and air on this one. We kind of touched on it a little bit throughout the discussion so far, but one of the things that that has made its return that I don't particularly like, but I am not a main tank or air person, so I don't really have a whole lot of room to speak on their mechanics, but I do not like, as somebody who just kind of casually jumps in a tank every now and then, the rotation speed is back. It doesn't feel good. One of the things that I did notice, and we'll talk a little bit more on this one, Gravity, with you, because I know you spend a lot of time in vehicles, but the rotation speeds and the horizontal or the vertical axis felt off really, really bad.
It felt very low.
So I don't know what that was. But anyways, Incarnate, you're the jack of all trades. So what is your opinion on armor and air in this game so far?
Okay, so I'm gonna channel first Dark Times, who's probably listening. The jets felt like poop, and that's because there were some key binding issues. They just were ineffective. Not that I'm all for effective air vehicles. I don't think one player in the helicopter or jet should be able to ruin an entire server, 128 people or 63 people's experiences. That's not too fun, especially since the Stingers seem to be quite bugged, or the MAA's missiles or the air-to-air missiles. They were all just lock-on wonkiness of catastrophic proportions. The flares didn't work, the missiles didn't work, nothing seemed to work correctly. So there's a ton of vehicle balancing that just needs to be fixed. Trying to discount that. The scout helicopter having miniguns that were ranged at a fixed range, but then also having 14 hydro rockets or whatever they were that just didn't annihilate infantry, but made it very easy to kill infantry with like 4 or 5 rockets. Not too fun to play against. The jets felt like crap. The attack helicopter seemed to be crap until you realized how good it was at just hover camping with a 30 mil secondary gunner. Provided you could kind of get away from the AA missile ranges. My cat is shaking my camera. Trying to think what else air-wise. The transport helicopters were very good, provided you have some reps especially, but even doing just basic stuff with a coordinated gunner could be really rewarding. I don't know how I feel about transports sharing the same tier as what was it? It was like transport and attack heli, and then scout and jet, I think, for the air vehicles, which is a little bit weird on the grouping. I think if people are going to choose the lethal option over the support option, they're taking the lethal option. So maybe not grouping those was a good idea, or maybe not. There was an interesting mechanic with the air vehicles in terms of the BF3 mechanic, and maybe there was in earlier titles as well, of being able to dodge missiles at the right angle. That happened a lot. I had a really good pilot with me who was dodging air-to-ground missiles or ground-air missiles consistently in the attack heli and in the transport heli, just by seeing the missile, angling correctly, and it would just fly past and loop and explode. Never touched us. So that is something that I kind of like. It's a skill, but it's also a little bit cheesy if you get really good at it, because then you can just be untouchable. But again, I think that a lot of this just comes down to the balance not being there and the bugs being very prominent. So hoping that we can see loadouts for these vehicles that kind of make sense and have some trade-offs and downsides would really kind of give better perspective on the air vehicles. The tanks had some issues as well. I mean, there was a real squishiness, as you noted earlier, that everybody has a rocket launcher. Fine, okay, it's okay with me, but you need to make your tanks a little bit more durable then, because unless people have another option, people are running rocket launchers. That's just how it goes. Tanks not having, I think it was the auto stabilization, where like if you have your turret here and it just goes into a ditch and you're just down, other titles would just have it hold steady at exactly where it should. That's a very modern tank feature in real life. It's been a thing in past titles. It needs to remain a thing just so the quality of life is there and you can continue to aim at something that you're looking at. There's nice bugs with like the zoom optics. I'm sure Gravity can go into that more. Yeah, again, squishiness. The MAA was, I don't think it was bad, but it wasn't bad. Great. Well, it was bad. The one thing that was redeemable about it was that it didn't have like any bullet velocity delay. It was almost hit scan. If you were looking at something and tracking it, you could just continue to track it on target and not miss.
So, but you could do the same thing with BF4. I mean, that's not the problem. The problem is that the thing had massive spread on the main guns, and you couldn't.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, that comes down more to. Yeah, but you get in position, you just melt something. But of course, that requires you getting in position, which comes down to the maps themselves. And I didn't feel that vehicles had a lot of options on this map. I think if you went down towards C flag, you were kind of asking to get fucked by people in the trees. So you kind of, at least in my experience, I stayed more towards the B flag and like the runway there, or rocket way, whatever you want to call that. And that was more beneficial because there was flatter ground, less tree cover, more open targets to kind of pick off from the sides. And whether that's to be seen on other maps, I don't know. But I don't think in the current state of vehicles, I would want to take them into a urban environment. They feel as squishy. No, they feel squishier than they have in the past, and they have the like they feel squishy, but they still have the high, kind of high movement speed. I don't know. It didn't feel right, I guess, overall. Like, I would not want to take my tanks onto a point. I'm gonna stay off the point. I'm gonna play it like Battlefield 5. I'm gonna drive around the point. I'm gonna pick people off from the point, but I'm not gonna go near it. And for the air vehicles, I'm gonna fly them around. I'm gonna pick off infantry, and if I have to engage an air vehicle, I'm gonna do that. But otherwise, I'm just gonna try to infantry farm because that's how you help your team win, and that's fun to do. Why would I do anything else?
So
that's what I'm over.
So for me, when it came to vehicles, I see a lot of people in chat over here saying like the MAA was just fine. Air vehicles weren't overpowered. They could be shut down at any time that they wanted to. The fact of the matter is that in a Battlefield game, people are not going to be that person who shuts down air unless they are and I'm not talking about a competitive esports person, but a competitive person, somebody who wants to win, who, like Incarnate said at the beginning of the game, will sacrifice some part of what they would typically do to help the team out. Nobody is going to do that hardly in Battlefield. Every now and then you will find servers that will do it. Yes. But for the most part, people won't. That's why you end up with the shit that we had in the beta where air was absolutely destroying everything. Everything. Mobile AA to me, I got into it. I used it for 5 rounds in a row. Different servers that I matchmade into. 2 of those servers, I was constantly getting EMP'd and dying almost instantly. Whether that was a team that was working together or not, I don't know. I just know that there was one attack chopper that I could never kill because I was constantly getting EMP'd when he came for his attack run. Okay? Nothing I could do about it. Nothing at all. As far as the infantry players, it felt like everybody was looking at me. I mentioned this earlier on. When I drove up in a tank, I think I was in a tank like maybe 5 or 6 times. I drove up in a tank. I even thought that I was staying pretty far back from the action and trying to pick them up. But people are it was just like 3-4 rockets instantly coming at me every single time I peeked my head around a corner. I don't know. Maybe I was just getting lobbies where people actually paid attention to vehicles. I don't know. But whatever it was, I had no luck in vehicles whatsoever. Now, I do know that there are some pro vehicle players out there. I think Nispel was in here. He had some really good tank gameplay, and he's got some really good tips on his videos. But in general, I don't think that the land vehicles are good. I think that everything kills them. Air vehicles are going to be overpowered until they get toned down in certain aspects of them. I think that they need to have some limited rockets on the little birds. I do agree with what Silk said in one of his videos. I think he put it really, really well. The little birds need to have, so you have, oh my God, I'm going to be butchering this. I'm sorry, Silk, if you're still out there. He said something along the lines of the weapons that took the skill to use were easy, that should take skill are easy, and the weapons that didn't take skill were hard. And then it forced you to use certain weapons. So like you used the rocket pods more than you used the miniguns on the little birds, when it should be kind of the other way around. You shouldn't be relying solely on rocket pods. It should be you using more of the miniguns than you use the rocket pods. Yeah, so the most rewarding weapons were the easiest ones to use. Okay, there you go. Yeah, that's the way he said it. Sorry, so as he says, the most rewarding weapons were the easiest ones to use. And I totally agree. I would like to see those kind of toned down and changed up a little bit. One of the things that I didn't like was the pool system, because I ran into a situation to where we had no mobile AAs, but we did have tanks. I don't know if that was maybe a bug or a glitch, or maybe I just didn't see any mobile AAs or something, but the pool system I don't like. I think that they need to be separate. I would like to see a dedicated mobile AA on the map, even if it's just one. I would like to see a dedicated mobile AA on the map at all times. And then maybe you can switch out like a tank and an IFV or something like that. And then I think that the helicopters, instead of having, because I think that the attack choppers and the jets were in the same pool, right?
It was scouts and jets,
Yeah.
and then it was attack heli and transport.
So I think it needs to be attack heli and little birds, and then you have your jets and then I think your jets need to be separate, and then you can have your transports. But I don't think the way the pools were set up was just not right. It didn't feel right to me. I think they need to be tweaked in that regard. But I mean, that's pretty much, like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of experience in vehicles. I mostly was just ground pounding on foot and shooting at them with rockets. I do think that once the flares are fixed, because I was up in a helicopter with Element, and he was popping flares, and we were getting shot with the lock-ons all the time. I think when that gets fixed, air's going to be even more crazy because there were times that we shouldn't have been getting hit, and we were. So I don't know. I'm still of the opinion that air just feels way too overpowered, and land vehicles just don't. One of the other things too that I saw, and I think is really funny, are the physics of the vehicles. They definitely seem off.
Yeah.
All right. Next, Gravity, you go. I'm done.
I got a list of things. So yeah, the AAs and the tanks definitely need to be split up in their pool. There's a maximum of 2 on orbital. There's got to be more than that, for one. 2, I don't know how you're gonna fit that. I mean, if you have 2 tanks in the map, do you have 1 AA? Does it turn into a firestorm situation where you have 1 idiot sitting on your uncap with the AA that doesn't do anything? Or do you have 2 AAs on, like an multi-range that are overpowered? It's going to be weird like that. Second, jets are completely useless in the beta, and normally in past Battlefield games, those are the things that are going to be strafing down your helos and keeping them in check. Completely useless in the beta. Your air vehicles, choppers, again, the mobile AA. Yeah, like I said, the main gun, kind of flunky and kind of useless against the helos, especially at range. You got to remember with the upgrades, it can have like a double cannon on it, and one of the gunner seats can have a tow and a flat cannon. So, I mean, choppers are going to end up having to pay attention. With regard to the attack helo and the little bird, I mean, those helos also are going to get their own upgrades. There's an LGM available as a replacement for the Hydras on the Scout, which I don't know why anybody would do at this point. Completely agree that the miniguns need to be more centralized, more focused. So those need to be the primary gun. Attack helos, the main gun, the big thing of the secondary, I think of the cannon needs a bigger, higher cooldown, so it just can't go wrecking things on the rooftops of flags. I still think overall the armor side of things was better than the air, especially with physics when it came to balance in physics. But the tanks feel more like they're from Bad Company 2 BF3. They feel heavy, they feel thick. The shots do a lot of damage. The scout helos, they feel, and the attack helos, the flight physics, they feel like they're from a totally different game. They feel like they're like this most random councilization of these from BF1, BF5, where it's all about being as casual as you can be, whereas the tanks feel very past Battlefield in the zone type of thing. Granted, the turret turn speed thing gotta go. It has to go. One thing we noticed about the beta that from BF1 and BF5 that wasn't there, not mobility hits, glancing blows. Those are gone. Thank God.
Oh, yes.
We needed those gone for so long. Mobility hits on armor and vehicles seemed like they were all over the place. We were noticing it when you get hit in the helo with the rotors. Nothing happens. You would take disabling shots on the transport helicopter, which would take like 3 or 4 tank shells to bring one of those suckers down, and there's no Moby hit. Nothing blinks. The thing just takes off like a UFO. I mean, so that needs to be changed. But on the tank side, the tank top, you'll be trying to fight a chopper. Your turret can't aim high enough to begin with. Then on top of that, the chopper will hit the top of the tank. The turret gets disabled, and you already have a slow turret turn speed. So you really can't counter that helo at that point. So you're kind of screwed. You can get out of the tank, use a absolutely borked repair tool. So that doesn't work. Because it overheats. It doesn't cool down while you're in the vehicle. So that's a problem. And then the call-in system for the vehicles is completely useless for armor. We saw people doing it on top of the rooftop of the B flag to call in mobile AA vehicles, which is dumb. But the armor system, that was almost never available because you're only allowed max 2 armor vehicles on a map. So if there were 2 armor vehicles that were gone from spawn, nobody on that team was getting an armor vehicle call-in. It was only transport vehicles, and quite frankly, it should only be transport vehicles in that call-in system. So yeah, there's a lot. The other big thing is that rocket launcher that everybody had. The biggest problem with it is that it's incredibly fast. It takes 4 shots to kill a tank, along with any tank shells. So it's 4 main shells, 4 rockets, whatever kills tanks. So it's very blunt, basic damage. It didn't really matter where you were shooting the tank. The rear end did a little bit more damage. You couldn't see where it was coming from half the time. It had no drop at all. It was fast. So people could fire it from the top of the B building, and you had no idea where it was coming from. And again, the biggest problem is you can't see it. So you just run. You pop smoke and you run. That's the basic way to get off of flags, and that's a huge problem. Camera shake from explosions is crazy.
Do the tanks have a rear cam like the jets do?
Nope. I mean, you can get out and go to third person and look behind you, and generally that's the best way to do it, but then your turret kind of slowly goes that way. Yeah, no, I was talking about like a rear cam with the like the jets have. And then, of course, on top of that, there's the EMP drone that is constantly going to disable your tank, and you can't do anything except drive away. And the weirdest part about this is, again, you had some customization options available for infantry, right? You had none of that on tanks, or none of that on choppers or jets. The tanks, supposedly from the leaks of Temporal, was the gunner seat on the tank gets an EMP grenade. Well, in tank fights, that's going to be really freaking dumb. If you can just, completely nullify a tank from shooting at you back, I mean, that's going to be crazy. You can pop into a gunner seat and do that. That's going to be nuts. So not being able to test these things before launch is going to be crazy. Tanks overall, the shots feel okay. The main gun feels okay. The LMG feels okay. I think it's more for that, the maneuverability, the counters, and and that turret rotation. That's got to go. But tanks are in a much better place than air vehicles. My big gripe about air vehicles right now is, yes, they might seem overpowered, especially with helicopters, but I think it's way too early to tell without seeing those extra upgrades and refined physics on jets from once the full game hits.
Julian?
I'm glad jets don't have bombs.
Yet.
Yet. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. No,
I don't care much. I don't care much for vehicles, man.
Yeah.
I can see I'm surrounded by the biggest vehicle mains on planet Earth right now, and I'm kind of just, listening to Gravity talk about all the things that are wrong, and I'm like, good.
Well, I mean,
Fuck
you got Grav in here, you got Nispel, you got Silk in here. I mean, these are some really good vehicle players.
I hate all of you.
I think Careless was in here.
You are exploiting all the new players and having them stop their pre-order. How dare you? And I see what you do with your seat switching exploits and just being an absolute ass on the battlefield. And people, I hope you get pinged. Hope you get pinged constantly.
Okay.
From 3 AA
Julian's going to be that guy that advocates for the extra 50-meter grappling hook just so we can jump C4 on tanks.
I love it.
So Julian,
tank pools, complain about tank pools? No, this is designed to be a total chaotic game.
No. This has been a problem. The tank pool in the same pool as the AA has been a problem since Battlefield 1. You screw with vehicle balance on large maps when you have 4 AAs on a map versus 4 tanks on any Conquest map. It's so dumb. I mean, that's not the way the Battlefield the Conquest system should be played.
Too bad.
At all.
I do agree with that. This helps you as a infantry player. If your team spawns 4 AAs and there's 4 tanks, those AAs are going to die and those tanks are going to farm your infantry.
Yes.
Or if your team spawns 4 tanks and they have 4 attack helicopters and you spawned 4 jets who instantly crash to the ground because no one can fly jets, suddenly now your team is going to get farmed by aircraft because your team didn't spawn AAs, instead they spawned tanks. I think AAs being a mandatory separate slot is just a good thing to maintain and keep historically what have been very powerful air vehicles in check slightly. And that, of course, depends on the person who spawns in the vehicle, and that's why AAs need to be easy. AAs aren't always easy, and jet pilots can be really good. There's a whole much more. It's so complex, and it's not easy to find a single solution for air vehicle OP. But making sure that they are not inherently OP with 14 hydro rockets on a highly maneuverable little bird is a step in the right, or wrong in this case, direction.
Just from reacting to people's maneuverability with helicopters, dude, is that normal? Like the way they rock back and forth like that? What is that all about?
I don't think so.
I've ever seen anything like that.
I think that was one of the things that they were complaining about, was it felt too loose. You were overcompensating at times.
Yeah. It was cool to watch. I'm not gonna lie. Like
I will say this: watching an attack chopper do a barrel roll was pretty sweet.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like that was cool.
That was a good moment.
And what was the deal with the Ospreys being like the best planes ever. Like those suckers were like zooming around and like that was like, holy shit, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I remember I turned it into jet. I took off with one of those because it was in hover mode, and it said, "Ooh, press Z to change its fly mode." And I pressed it, and it just went like I was on a roller coaster ride all of a sudden. And I had to pull up like crazy because I nosedived right into the mountainside there because it turned into a jet all of a sudden. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot.
So,
Like I said, it's like those UFOs where they just take off from
Yeah.
nothing.
But
But
you can do it with the jet
but-
too.
Julian, just know that I am on your side here, like, because I don't want to absolutely destroy infantry either. Like, I am not going to be that guy that says, you know, tanks should, you know, there should be some counter for the grappling hooks are dumb because people can run up to your tank and chuck C4 with the grappling hook. I'm all for that. That just means the tanker was dumb and wasn't paying attention. That's the skill of the tanker there. So people complaining about that, I think, is a way overblown as far as, oh, you know, the tanks have too many counters. The big problem is the rockets and the amount of rockets that every specialist is able to get.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
as far as like on Julian's
one little point. One
Go
little
ahead,
point here.
go ahead.
It's the Battlefield's just known for its like controlled and its limits, like the way the classism is a limit. The tanks mechanics and the playing mechanics are all limits, right? That's I don't get that vibe from how DICE went into this newer game. They're talking about like unlocking things, freedom to play with whatever primary weapon you want, freedom to do whatever you want, the sandbox feeling. I think they just said sandbox and said sandbox 2.0, let's fucking go. I think that's just what the whole point of 2042 is at this point. And now they're trying to give you a big overall encompassing Battlefield feel. This is just 2042's Battlefield on steroids. Right, and then people are like, but I want team play, or I want this to be paced a specific way. The maps are too big. Like, I think that's the direction they want to do. They had a design decision from the beginning and stuck with it. And I kind of seem like a lot of people praise that. And they should have done that for Battlefield 5, really.
Bad thing. Like I don't think it's a bad thing to fully embrace that sandbox thing. But I think there still needs to be some like here's your sandbox, but there is a boundary on the sandbox that defines where the sandbox begins and where it ends.
They say that. They talk a lot about balance and things like that. And
I don't know if it exists.
They say these things in the blog post, but I don't know if they're gonna execute it properly.
I think one of the problems though is that and this is getting a little off topic, but one of the problems when DICE says we're balancing things or we're making, when they do internal testing, they have an idea of how it's supposed to be played. And they have basically taken people off of their rosters for test play because they were too good at killing or too good at destroying servers. So instead, and the thing is that instead of telling those people, hey, you need to stop playing, figure out why they're destroying. What are they doing that is so good? Because the thing is that if they don't, because that player, that's going to be out in the wild and there's going to be more of them and it's going to happen to other people. So balance it with those players in mind right then and there, but they don't. They have an idea of how the game is supposed to be played and that's the way they play it. And then when they put it out in the wild, we come up with just dumbass shit to do that breaks the game. And it's like, okay, now all of a sudden the game's not balanced anymore. Like who in the world thought that seat switching was going to be a thing back before it was a thing? Right? Like nobody was going to balance for that, but it is. And to an extent, it can still be done. Like it's kind of crazy. Like I don't know. There's just some stuff that when it comes to balance, DICE is never going to get right because they refuse to believe that there's another way to play the game other than their own vision of how the game is supposed to be played. But anyways, real quick. What is it, Graf?
You know what's mind-boggling about the seat swapping in the helicopter stalling is that they have literally like 8 games of helicopter soloing experience that they could draw on, where they have literally nerfed solo seat swapping into the ground, starting with Battlefield Vietnam. And it's like they have such a new team of people who don't have any Battlefield experience prior to BF1. So like below radar and jets, not a thing, because who would have thought about that? It's simple things like this that they don't have a clue.
So one last thing before we move on, I would be curious to see if there is going to be a counter to the EMP. It didn't feel like smoke countered it to me. At the very least, the times that I was in the AA, like I said, it just seemed like I couldn't ever get away from it. So I would be curious to see how that ends up getting countered. All right, so we're going to move on. Next topic here, guys. We're getting towards the end of our list. Promise you we're not going to be trying to make this an all-nighter, that is for sure. But we're going to talk about just general gunplay, the movement, the plus system, and the gadgets. So I kind of wrap this all up into one because they all kind of interconnect with each other and all kinds of good stuff. But let's go ahead and start with you, Incarnate. Just kind of go nuts.
Okay, that's a big list. So this ties in, I guess, to the thing we just talked about and into the movement. So one thing that I think probably DICE knew that they were doing, because they very clearly copied Call of Duty Modern Warfare in a lot of ways with this game, from the tactical sprint to the sliding mechanics. They knew that people were going to slide around, and they were going to slide around as much as they could because sliding's fun and it gives you a speed boost and it's, movement tech. Cool. They did not intend, and nor do I think they had anyone in their playtest who intended for people to be going from the top of the B tower and sliding all the way down the runway, which happened.
Yes.
And other people have found other ways. There was Twitter clips I was seeing of people who were, it wasn't like Zuzu tier levels of hitbox broken, but it was movement that was looking like it was out of Titanfall or something, which is not a bad thing. I'm all for movement tech as infantry that diversifies and creates a skill gap. That's fantastic. But again, this comes back to this idea of they don't have people in their playtest fully pushing these systems to their limits and breaking them, or finding their boundaries if they're not broken, just to see where exactly they go. Because you're going to have these players in the wild, and there's going to be more of them, and they are going to be destroying noobs who are getting in and thinking, oh, there's an AI. Oh, there's a player like me. Oh, here's a god coming at me, and you just get rolled, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's not a bad thing. Players should be able to express their skill in as many ways as possible, but they need to account for that. And I don't think they've done that in the movement system. It needs some tweaking, needs some refinement. I'm not saying nerf it. I'm saying balance it. And that's that's a very vague thing to say, but I think they need to find a sweet spot there. Not actual sweet spots. Don't bring those back, please. Plus system, I think, is cool. I think it's a bit of a... I don't want to say it's a bad thing, because I do always appreciate the ability to switch your optics, switch your barrel. I think the biggest issue with it right now is that you can switch ammo types and instantly reload your gun, which is beyond silly. What they should be doing is something, where if you switch ammo types, you have a reload animation that has to happen. But you have an overall ammo pool of, say, of 300 rounds. And then, if you're mag dumping out of your 5.56 ammo, and then you switch to your 9mm on your assault rifle, you're pulling from the same ammo pool. That could have its ups and downs, but there's not enough ammo boxes around the map right now to make it worth your while to be switching, or to be like, if you're running one ammo type and it's just like the best ammo type, and you're switching to your 9mm and you're switching to your heavy when you need it at range, that's all great and dandy. But those opportunities don't always arise. So you're going to be running your 5.56 for your mid-range engagement, and then you're going to be out of it, and you're still going to need it. So then you have to put yourself in a suboptimal position where you don't have enough ammo, and you have to run 9mm at 50 meters, or you have to run heavy at 50 meters, and it's just not as good. So either increase the ammo boxes around the points, because people right now are not running ammo. Why would they? They can run rocket launcher. Or give yourself a higher ammo capacity in the pocket, where you're just pulling out more ammo from the higher capacity reserve. But I think the ability to change optics and barrel length and suppressor, I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing yet. I think we really need to see just how much people kind of tinker with it and break it. Obviously, being able to change exactly how your gun is kitted to better situate yourself in a given location is kind of a high skill thing, but it's also kind of throwing people off, right? Because if you shoot a suppressed gun and then all of a sudden you're 50 meters away and shoot a loud gun, somebody might think it's two different people. But it was you the whole time, you're big braining. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. It can be really disorienting. It could also be really kind of like, here's a situation where I just totally outplayed somebody. And you are a great player, and you did the right things at the right times. You switched up your gun, you switched up your gameplay, you made it work. That rewards you for doing that. But also, should you have been rewarded for that because you just hit the T button and you changed your gun instead of picking the right gun for the right situation, which is what Battlefield has historically been about. You know, you pick the assault rifle and you're walking in the middle of the field in gold mud, you're going to be, you know, kind of out of place. But if you picked, you know, an LMG or a sniper rifle and you're watching this big old field, maybe that made more sense in that scenario. And you picked the right gun for the right situation. There's plus and down, you know, sides for each of these things. I don't think it's exactly a bad thing or a good thing. We really just kind of need to see what the options are for each gun. And I think we've seen some data leaks from Temporal who have said, you know, here's I don't want to say 50, but it's like 30 attachments for each gun. Obviously, that's not going to fit on this system. So finding, I guess, how you customize that and how you set up these guns going into a game, so you have those 3 options per branch.
So like
out of that
30 options
pool.
for all of them, like for all 4
No,
categories?
like he showed a list of like the LCMP, LMG, whatever it is, and it had like 30 or 40 attachments. Like, here's a grenade launcher, here's a flashlight, here's a foregrip, here's a shotgun underbarrel, and it was like 5 or 6 attachments for this LMG on the underbarrel alone. That's not all going to fit on this T system. There's no way, unless your UI is huge or your UI is scaled down or whatever it might be. So somehow we're going to customize exactly what we bring into battle, and then we're going to pick that on the fly, I think. Maybe that changes by launch. Who knows? I don't think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it just kind of has to play out, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon, because I would bet $20 that's integral to Hazard Zone and picking up stuff and looting or whatever that might be.
I just put that image in the chat, by the way.
Image of what? Oh, the temporal
LCMG,
thing.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's I can't check it right now, but I'm sure that's a big old list of attachments and optics and barrels and ammo types and.
I wonder if you can customize some of those, like preload some of those from the menu. That'd be great.
I'm sure you can.
I would imagine that you build your loadout, and then that's what you're going to be coming into, and then you'll have those attachments that you can kind of go to. You would almost have to be.
I hope you can do things from the menu. God, I hope you can do it from the menu.
Well, and yes, not going all the way back to the BF5 armory screen, you know, at the main menu. Yeah. God, that was the worst.
Right.
What else? General gunplay. I have mixed feelings on the gunplay. It felt snappy at times, and it felt really, really shitty other times. And I think that's just hit reg, because I was running at 45 hertz. It's not 60 hertz.
Did you see Silk's video with the where it was off center? So he's shooting at a guy here, and there's a building or a dumpster or something to his left, and the bullets are hitting the dumpster instead of shooting at the guy, and it's not. It's so bad.
Was that, so I haven't seen this video, and I mean, I fully expect there to be spread, but I also expect there to be some wacky gun balance stuff. So I'm pretty sure all the people that worked on past titles at this point, from 3, 4, etc., are gone. I was not the biggest fan. I've always been a fan. And I wasn't always a fan until I realized that I was a fan of 3 and 4's, you know, spread mechanics. So it lets you have high lethal damage at close range and long ranges, but it also requires people to kind of manage that spread. So you can't just laser beam people across the map. And the guns felt laser beamy until they didn't. I don't know exactly what that is. I still, on the SimGG side of things, have not extracted that data. Hit me up, bros.
What are you waiting for, bro? Come on.
I have stuff to do. And also, I don't have everything that I need. So that's on me, but it's also on other people in the internets. So talk to me, talk to your people, get my lawyer, get your lawyer. I don't know.
My people talk to your people.
Please, they are great. I have stuff to do on that. So eventually we will see. I will have that up as soon as I do. You will be the first to know among anyone else on the internet who follows @Simthig. Please do that, Twitter. Yeah, I don't know. It's the gunplay itself feels good, but it feels off. And I don't know if that's hit reg from networking, or if it's, you know, high spread or like high move spread but not high stationary spread, or if there is no spread and everything's laser beam and I just suck. I don't know. So I had some mixed experiences, and I think it's just waiting for the polish to come in to really be able to distill that.
I'm gonna say it's not because you suck, because I've seen you play before.
I feel like a total washed boomer at this point. It's bad. I got myself glasses and everything. I am just ready to go and just go full on senile. All right, I can't see.
Look at Incarnate there with the sexy glasses going on.
It's bad. I'm full boomer. Can't.
Actually, you know what you look like? You look like the librarian with all those books behind you.
I have round glasses that look like I'm a professor.
Oh my god!
I should have brought that. I can read out a book and, you know, spool through.
We're gonna call you Professor Incarnate.
Please don't. I'm not qualified. I just post stuff on a website and write words. Yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't know. I think it just
okay.
I think there's gonna be tweaking, and I think it's gonna be, you know, one of these things that we need to see the game running well to be able to determine if we actually like the gunplay full and through.
Okay, well, I like the general gunplay. I came off of it with a positive feeling. I agree. There were times when it felt really wonky, especially the hip fire. There were times when hip fire felt like it was laser beam at, like 10 meters. Like, holy shit, how am I hitting that guy with the freaking hip fire here? And then there were times when he was right in front of my face and I was just like, how am I not hitting him with this hip fire? I think that burst fire is back and is very effective, especially at long distances. Yeah, I think the starting AR, whatever it was called, it just felt like you could burst fire people from distance for days on that thing. It was insane. I did have, there was one thing that I did want to bring up. I don't know if you guys have seen the video or not, but a guy, he went in and there's a program that does a 360 every single time, it does like so Incarnate, you've seen it.
Yep.
And so he showed it where he went into the game and he did a 360 and every single time it landed in a different position. And some people were saying that there's some kind of mouse acceleration that is involved that hasn't been turned off.
If I can interject real quick, that was apparently the input from your mouse and keyboard being turned into an analog controller input by the game. Your mouse input settings were being turned into controller input.
Really?
That's what was happening. That's apparently what was happening. That's what the aim sensitivity guy was saying. It was like, going into analog.
That's nuts.
Sorry. But yeah, totally nuts. And that's another reason why the gunplay felt like trash.
Did the dev say he fixed it?
I don't know. There was a few settings floating around, like in your config file or like the profile file that you can set up to kind of change that.
I think they said they fixed it.
I hope they did, because I don't know why that's an issue after how many PC games they had and they suddenly borked the input. Why?
Well, I mean,
that was like the first thing people were talking about.
Well, I mean, it's like it did feel like it had a lot of. It was just a console port quick over, because like when you were in the menus, did you notice when you were in the menus and you moused over an option that was in the lower third, it would start scrolling down like you had a controller and you're moving the cursor down to go. It was crazy, man.
Pain.
But anyways, I liked the general gunplay. Overall, I think it was pretty darn good. I know a lot of people are saying that there needs to be more recoil added. I honestly don't think that if you added some recoil, it would be bad. I don't think it would hurt the game. It doesn't need to go overboard. They don't need to make it to where you hit 2 shots and all of a sudden you're looking at the sky. I really hope they don't add that weird ass like patterns, recoil patterns that they had in Battlefield 5 that would so the way I understood it, in Incarnate, you probably know more than me, but the way it was explained to me with Florian was there are a set number of recoil patterns and they randomly come into play. That's the way it was explained to me. Now, granted, this was also pre-game launch. This was like 2 weeks before the game launch. So it may have changed throughout the lifetime, because I didn't play Battlefield 5 after, I think, 9 months. So I don't know what it ended up being. But
as far as I know, it was a recoil seed. So there was a value that was determined by whoever who put in a value for this seed. So that was what the recoil was based on. And you would get that seed, that number that was like 20 digits or some nonsensically high digit count, would determine whatever this system. This is why we can't show patterns effectively, because it would interpret this and then also overlay the thread that was turned into recoil by the game. And on top of that, you also had regular recoil. So it was like, here's your pattern, but also you can get variations on this pattern. So it was kind of a pattern, more of a trend, but every gun did have a set value that was set into the game's code. And I know some people, I think we've seen some videos of people floating around shooting walls. I didn't waste my time because whatever, left mouse, go burr.
So I hope that it kind of relatively stays like it is right now. Obviously, fix the bugs and the glitches that are in there. Movement, absolutely love the movement. I know that they have already said that they're going to be penalizing the jumping and the sliding. There's going to be some kind of penalties for constantly doing it over and over and over and over again, which I'm not completely opposed to. My biggest thing on sliding, and I have said this many times before, you should not be able to slide constantly to traverse the map. Like, that shouldn't be your main way to traverse the map. In Battlefield 1, it was, before it got nerfed, that was the way you traverse the map. You constantly slid. In Battlefield 5, I felt like when I was traversing the map, I was constantly sliding. In Apex, when you traverse the map, you're constantly sliding. Like, that's just a thing that you do, right? You see players doing it all the time. It's not a must. It's just a thing that good players typically do a lot. I don't mind having some penalties apply to it. I just don't want them to go overboard with it. Overall, I like the movement. I had fun with it. I had fun with how easy it was to avoid ladders that were going to be camped by people on top of buildings. We didn't have claymores in this game, but I know as soon as we do, especially because it's a gadget that anybody can then pick up, you're going to have claymores at every freaking ladder that's in this game. And being able to avoid that ladder and just jump up there with McKay, I absolutely love that. That was very fun for me to do. And it added some really cool, fast-paced gameplay, which I think myself as a player has grown to appreciate more. I like playing Apex. I like the movement system in there, the fast pace feeling that it had. I like that, and I liked it in Battlefield as well, how fast paced it was. That was just very, very enjoyable for me overall. So I like the movement. I think for the most part it can stay. There are going to be some tweaks in it. I just hope they don't go overboard. Plus system for me, I liked it. I like being able to switch out some of my attachments, mainly switching out my optics. I like being able to have the option, especially on the DMR, to go from the iron sights to, I think it was like the 4X or whatever the magnified scope was. I liked being able to switch between that. I didn't use the red dot too much because it felt wonky for me, but being able to go from close quarters to shooting at long distance with that particular gun was super enjoyable. Really, really loved that. I pretty much just kept the foregrip on at all times with every gun that I could. And I pretty much just had whatever the barrel, I had one barrel that I always went to, and that was the only barrel that I went with for all of the guns. Ammo types, I only switched ammo types when I was either trolling vehicles with the AP ammo, because that is just absolutely ludicrous to be able to, I don't know if the tank took some previous damage or not, but as I said before to some of the guys, there were all four of us in a squad had LMGs. We all had AP ammo on along with our grenades, and we took out a tank by ourselves with LMGs and grenades. That should not be a thing, in my opinion. I think you should be able to disable parts. I like that idea, being able to disable parts on the tank, but I don't think you should be able to take out a tank with LMGs and nades. Like that just, to me, I don't like that. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's realistic. I just don't like it. But I do think you should be able to disable certain things. I did like the fact, or I do agree with Incarnate on the fact that the switching ammo types needs to be an actual reload animation. Just instantly having your mag refilled, absolutely stupid. Really breaks the game. There were some guys that were really, really good. I was watching on stream that were switching, and it was just like, holy shit, man. That is, when you start figuring it out, like, you're going to be a beast on the game, especially when you have guns like the, what was the really high fire rate SMG is like anyways, I call it the Vector because that's what it is in like every other game.
It's Vector, yeah.
Vector, I saw some of the guys switching in between ammo in that one. That gives you 60 bullets in that thing. You could just delete people so
40.
Fast. Well, you had 40 and then you had 20. And when they switched mags, it gave them 60. And it was just like, it was insane. So that I think does need to change. But overall, loved the plus system. I think it was pretty good. I do think that there needs to be a way to customize it before you get in game. Like, that doesn't need to be a thing where you're having to constantly, switch to those as you spawn in every single game. Like, that was really annoying to see. And then just, I think we already went over gadgets pretty hardcore on this one. I do think gadgets need to be kind of separated and placed into their own categories as opposed to just every single specialist having access to them. One of the most powerful combinations that I did see as far as like infantry killing was having the Falk with the med gun and then having armor plates along with it. Like, it felt like I saw people doing some massive damage with that. You're able to tank a lot of damage and you're able to heal yourself. Plus you have access to the best guns. So, maybe somehow figure out maybe how to tone some of that stuff down. I don't like armor in the game anyways, but it's going to be in the game. Like, let's just get used to the fact that armor is going to be a thing. How can we bounce around it? So I think maybe some tweaks with that would be nice. Do any of you guys know if there was a symbol or a notification when you were shooting somebody with armor?
Yes.
There was.
Hit marker turned blue.
Yeah.
They did.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I never noticed it. Maybe I just didn't have the hit markers turned up to a big enough size. I never noticed it myself. So I don't know if I was ever in a fight with somebody with armor. But do you guys feel like the armor made gunfights feel infrequent, or what's the word I'm looking for? Just like random. Inconsistent. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Did you guys ever feel like that?
No.
And I didn't run into enough people using it, I don't think, to really get a good impression.
It's hard to tell if an enemy player actually has armor equipped, because you either dome them in the head, and then it didn't really matter if it would apply or not. So,
okay.
Yeah, there's that too.
What I'm kind of hoping is that, like, and I don't know how it's balanced, but like in BF4 there was a defensive perk, and that only really changed a small fraction of your damage between like 15 and 30 meters or something, where like it wouldn't really shift your BTK that much at those close range gunfights. And I'm hoping this 20 HP from armor is something that where the guns are balanced so that your close range up to like 20 meters, the TTK doesn't matter if you have armor or not. And then at those longer ranges, you're taking armor so that way you don't get plinked by a sniper twice. You have to take a third shot. At that extreme range where probably no one's going to get that kill anyways, it just helps you preserve your actual health in case you get into a close range gunfight while you're walking out in the open from some guy, eons away. That's a measure of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
you get the point.
Yeah, and like I said, I never really felt like it was a big deal in the beta. Like I said, it's not going away anytime soon. I think that it needs to maybe have some tweaks if it does end up becoming a problem. So we should just get used to it. The other gadget that Gravity did mention that I wanted to touch on was the repair tool. I tried to be a repairman for a couple of tankers. I really did try to be helpful to them, but having the repair tool not cool down when you're inside the tank, I think I can kind of understand why they're doing it, because they don't want people to solo tanks, but at the same time, like it needs to maybe just be reduced. So maybe your cooldown is faster when it's outside the tank as opposed to while it's inside the tank. But that I think needs to go away. I think that there needs to be more input as to if you're repairing. Now, I don't know if this was a glitch or not, Gravity, you may know, but there were some places on the back part of the tanks to where I was like, my whole screen was the ass of the tank, and I was using the torch and I wasn't repairing.
That's probably a bug. Most of the time when you hit the back, it was fine. Yeah.
Okay, because there were moments like that where I was like, okay, this is not repairing. What the hell's going on? So hopefully that is fixed in the base game. But yeah, I think the torch needs to be looked at because it doesn't feel good. It feels like a very useless gadget, and honestly, the only person I can see using it is the tank driver himself. And I don't think that anybody is really going to want to stick around and gun for somebody and use the repair tool.
Two little fun facts about the repair tool. One, in the beta, you actually can't kill infantry with it, which is funny because in Portal they were like, "Hey, repair tool fights thing." And you couldn't kill infantry with it.
Wait!
You could.
Are you sure?
I couldn't kill infantry with it.
Ravik has a video where he's killing people with it. Yeah.
So maybe it was me. Maybe I had an issue with it.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
Two, the game start is so damn fast once you load into a server that you literally have to do this really snap reaction to switch your kit to a repair tool, otherwise, and get in the tank. Otherwise, oh look, I'm gonna be without an engineer for forever.
I see what you're saying.
As far as my general thoughts go, the majority of the general gunplay, pretty good. The TTK, pretty on the spot. I liked the way the TTK was, like Brett said earlier. I think a little bit of extra added recoil will be okay. Movement, I like the smoothness of it. It felt really good. The grappling hook, I like Dice showed off that whole thing of what was the best of the specialist, and like it was 114.2 million grappling hooks versus 3.3 million syringe shots. So shocker, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm willing to bet that that's about 80% of people shooting themselves rather than teammates, because there's no point to revive. But yeah, I mean, grappling hook, it's fun. I get it. There's only 4 specialists. I'm sure that number will decrease over time. It just increased your mobility, and getting on rooftops instead of climbing ladders is fun like that. It really worked. It helped. It added a whole new element to the game, and I think that is not necessarily the worst thing. That if you're gonna steal something from like Apex or COD, I can live with that. It's pretty good. The ammo count, I thought generally was pretty low. I thought that needs to be buffed, even if you can switch your ammo kits around and get extra ammo. I think your base ammo is pretty damn low. So that's why you saw a lot of people using McKay plus ammo pack. Grapple plus ammo bag was kind of a common one. Plus system, I liked it. Like I said, I think you guys said earlier, I'd like to see it be configurable from the menu, so you don't have to, configure it every time you load into a game. That'd be great. General gadgets, for the most part, I'm okay with everything, with the exception of the recon drone, which needs to be nerfed into the ground. EMP needs to be taken off of it. I wouldn't mind just having it be a MAV, and that's pretty much what it is. The problem is, it has less of a cross section than like a little, sparrow or fly in the air. There's no way you can see those things if they're high up. None. You just can't see it. That's pretty bad. Big things. The netcode, for the most part, was okay. 128 players with 45 hertz can get rough sometimes. A lot of instances of dusting, especially in vehicles. I must have dusted at least 10, 15 choppers with tank shells, so that really sucked, considering, that's like one of the big highlights of the game. Obviously, everybody noticed it from looking in the sky, or if you were in a vehicle at all for the air vehicles, the jets and the helicopters desyncing and rubber banding like crazy.
Yeah.
What is that?
Now, it was even worse in the alpha, I will tell you that, but I don't have the utmost confidence that this is going to be resolved ever. And I'll tell you why, because if you still play BF1 and you still play BF5 and you look at the plane distance is far away, it still happens. Jets and planes in BF5 still do this warping effect at far distances, and it sucks. And I think that it'll be largely fixed in the base game, in the full game for 2042, but I think it's not going away permanently. The AP rounds and the LMGs, I don't necessarily hate the idea of these things, but I think it should be like the HMG rounds from like BF4, where they target, they can damage little birds or attack helos or the ground armored jeeps, but not tanks. Like I agree with maybe disabling them, but taking actual damage in a tank to an HMG round, like from an LMG, kind of dumb. That's ridiculous. The grappling hook's pretty good. The last thing I want to mention here is the tools. So we have the medic bag, the revive system, and the repair tool, as Brett mentioned. And we mentioned this pre-show, but I don't think reviving that rarely ever happened in the game, ever. So
unless you were in a squad.
There was just no incentive. Yeah, there was just no. Well, even if you were in the squad, there's almost no incentive to, because it takes forever. You stand still. How does a company that goes from such a seamless revive of Battlefield 1, where you just pull the syringe, do it, throw it in the ground while you can move, go to that, and on top of that, then that gets leaked from the dude who cracked the game and was using the BF3 stuff, that the BF3 paddle system was far faster, far more efficient, and you could move while you're doing it. And the BF3 repair tool could also be found in the game that also repaired things faster, had no problem being overheated. Just why? Why give us the crappy, shitty version? Like, it's mind-boggling. So
well, maybe because they expect people to not play in Portal as much. I mean, that's
a false assumption right there, because everybody wants to play that.
But I could totally see where new players that are coming over into the game, all they're going to do is matchmake straight into 2042 base. Like, that's all they're going to do.
Yep. Well, we don't know what Portal's going to be like. What if you click on the Portal button and they're like, "Oh man, this is
all
great."
Those buttons are right next to each other. That is true. It's not like you're searching far for Portal. Those big three buttons were right next to each other.
It really depends on how they design it.
For Hazard Zone and not for Conquest or Breakthrough or anything like that. Like repair vehicle needs to be slow, because in Hazard Zone, vehicles are limited assets and they should take damage and retain damage, right? Like,
yeah, I can see.
I think a lot of this balance is just not geared for the core multiplayer, but for the Hazard Zone, which clearly the specialists are made for. And clearly this was a brewing idea that's been there for a while, ever since the failure that was Firestorm.
But even Falk, even the Falk who's like hyped up to be the meta character, barely, the revive wasn't any better. I mean, maybe it was a split second faster, but she's still stuck in place. Takes revive. It drives me crazy to think a company that's been making Battlefield games this long screws it up that bad.
It's not the same company. I mean,
that's true. They haven't done it it's all new people, and God love us. I mean,
God hates us.
Oh God, Yeah, so generally it's the gunplay is good, but there's so much to work on.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
are you done?
Yeah. Portal will save us
Are you
all.
done?
All right.
Portal will
Well,
save
well,
us
I
all.
mean, I can't
Portal,
tell
portal,
because
portal.
Grav told us at the very beginning he's gonna have rants like nobody's business. So, all right, Julian, how about
yeah.
you, man?
Well, okay. I want to start with the plus system. I mean, you guys already. I know, Brett, you already mentioned this that it was annoying when you spawned in and you were just forced, basically, to make your gun better by using the plus system. You can't customize anything outside of the game or during the match, like in the beginning, before like a customization tab or anything like that. It's all gone. So the plus system working here in the beta was more like training wheels, really, when you think about it. It's like all these new players coming in being forced to use that was actually, maybe, I don't think it was intended to be like this, like all buggy and whatnot, but maybe this might incentivize people to use it a little bit more, because I think when the game comes out, you'll be able to have all your loadouts preset, right? And you'll have your plus system preset, so it won't be a thing when you load in. You're ready to go with what you want to play with, especially with all the normies playing the game. They're just gonna play with the gun, right? And but what you notice quickly in the beta, that the new players, even really good players, didn't quite notice that their gun was completely naked of attachments, and I was like, "What the heck? Like, this gun sucks or something, right?" The M5, which was that assault rifle, that was like the meta. It was barely any recoil on it, and then once you put on the different, once you start using the plus system and put all the attachments on it, it's like, oh man, this is my go-to. It did beat out a lot of different other loadouts. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of odd. With the plus system was broken for a lot of the different weapons, right? They wouldn't stick. It wouldn't stick.
Okay. Yeah.
That was annoying.
Imagine giving two assault rifles in the beta, and one of them reset every damn time.
Yeah, it's annoying. No fault of the AK. I think it's a great gun. Like I said, I mean, I share a lot of your guys' sentiments with the gunplay and the movement. I agree with. I really don't think they should do anything with the movement. I think it's fine. I think they should probably embrace the chaos like they're embracing the chaos with everything else in the freaking game. But yeah, there gotta be a little bit of penalties here and there. Fine. It looks like they already did that for the sliding and jumping and whatnot. Okay, but even with the beta movement, when I was trying to track people, even really good players, I was just going everywhere like a wizard in the sky, pretty much, and I could still hit them. Now, I got a decent shot. I wasn't complaining about all that. So with the movement, keep it the same. I think it'll be fine, and it looks like a lot of people enjoy that. It's one of the biggest positives out of the entire beta, is the movement, especially with the grapple hook. Man, that must have been good times. I was surprised it works so well all the time. It does look a little odd because there's like visually, because there's a little gap between the gun itself and like an invisible gap with the wire, with the hook itself. It was kind of weird, but it worked. Well, that doesn't matter. That's like a bug, right? But it worked really well. And it was great because you thought when you were a McKay guy and you went up on the roof, it was like, oh, no one else coming up here. 'Cause I'm the smartest guy around, right? Because look what I did with my, Obi-Wan maneuver, right? And then all of a sudden you get freaking clapped by another McKay out of nowhere, and it's like, oh man. There's good counters right there. But I think it's just a poor representation of the classes, not the classes, but the specialist system, because there's going to be 10 of them, and we don't know what the other guys are going to do. Well, we know most of them are going to do, but it'll change up that dynamic pretty well. So, yeah, the plus system, again, is just, I think, how do I say, not a crutch, but like it was forced upon players. It's just a false sense of using that, because by the release it's going to be totally different, in my view. But let's see what else. for movement and whatnot, I don't know. I think I share a lot of you guys. I don't want to keep repeating a lot of things, so I think I'm good with the whole movement and gunplay. Getting the hit range was the only issue I had really, because once it hit really nice. Because I got in super early for the beta, and I can hear footsteps. It was great. I can move around, even with the rocket making all the noise. I can hear people sliding around, and you know, all that kind of stuff. It just felt good. When I killed a person, I was excited. I was like, wow, this is great. It felt good. But then once everybody started coming in, you could start feeling the lag and all these weird things started happening. So I understood it, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more tamed by release. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. I have one last piece to add about the grappling hook. Now that we're talking about it,
Yeah.
just one brief thing. I don't know if anybody noticed, but one thing that everybody kept trying to do with jets and helicopters is everybody kept trying to emulate the trailer and do a Rendazuka on everything, right? And it's like, hey, that's our only Battlefield big moment. The thing with the grappling hook was you were able to latch onto like flying by jets and choppers, but it placed you in the spot that they were at in the air at the time. It doesn't actually latch onto the chopper or the jet. That needs to be fixed, because that would be nuts to latch onto a low-flying jet or helo, rappel back up to it, and Rendazuka at point blank or chuck C4 onto it and then grapple down. That seems like a physics issue, but that would be pretty cool. And I wouldn't even have a problem with that.
What about the guy who grapple hooked on the rocket?
You could you could. I wonder if that was because it's a physical. I wonder if it's because it's a physical pre-rendered object, like for a pre-rendered building, rather than a moving vehicle.
But I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, like I grappled a scout multiple times, and it would just grapple me 20 feet behind where it was when I grappled.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it grapples to the point where you originally hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that drove me crazy, whoever decided that swap weapon should be the same button as revive squad mate.
Yes. Yes.
No,
yeah, I thought we mentioned that, but yeah, that's a huge point.
This was a problem in Battlefield 5, was it not?
I'm
pretty sure consoles had this issue in Battlefield 5. I think it was a console problem. Yeah. I think they had the same issue back in Battlefield 5 because it was a hold instead of a tap. And so when you were holding, you were picking up the gun, and then they ended up changing it to a tap so that you wouldn't have to worry about picking up the weapon that was next to him. You could just get the revive in there. So I think
I'm sure they fixed that already. I'm sure.
I hope so. I hope so. All right, guys. Yeah. Well, we are nearing the end of this stream. We do appreciate everybody who has tuned in. And I do hope that you have enjoyed so far. I know that we have probably missed some stuff that we, obviously the beta is expansive. We go on for hours and hours and hours to talk about this. But the last thing that I want to talk about, just bring up before we close this out, what is your overall attitude towards the game right now? Not towards the beta, towards the game right now. Incarnate, go.
I am generally optimistic for the foundation of the game, but more so optimistic and hopeful and thankful, hopefully, for Portal. I think 2042 will be saved by Portal. I think Portal will be what everyone's been asking for multiple years now. 2042, I think, has a solid foundation, but I don't know if even if what they have claimed is true, that this beta is months old, in a month, I don't know if they can put on the polish they're claiming they need to put on. I just hope that the core foundation can be worked on and the rest of the stuff can be ported over into Portal maps, and I can play BF3 with a couple new guns, or Bat Company 2 with a couple new guns, and just call it a day. I'm optimistically terrified and tentatively wanting to play the game, but again, 2042 is not what I'm going to be playing, I don't think, unless some general polish and elbow grease is put into the game to really polish it up. Of course, I'll be buying it anyways because I have stuff to do with Simthic, so that's unfortunate for me. Yeah, they've got my money. That's
okay. For me, I'm gonna buy the game anyways. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to play it after the initial release week because I've got to go on a family trip. But
I said week.
I know. What is this family thing? I should just tell them to go screw off.
Yeah.
I am cautiously optimistic for the base game, kind of like what Incarnate is. I think that They have a good structure to build on. There are some design decisions that I don't like, but they're not going to change. I realize that after what, 9 years now of giving feedback on Battlefield games, I realize that my feedback is 99% not going to make an impact on the game. That's just the way it is. So I realize that. I'm okay with it now. I've made my peace. So I'm just going to find what I do enjoy about the game and play that aspect of it. That being said, that aspect of the game is more than likely going to be Portal. I see myself living in Portal a lot more than the base game of 2042, especially since, like you said, we can play the base game maps in Portal. So, I mean, why would you not play Portal? My biggest concern so far with the game is that there has been no mention of a spectator mode, and there's been nothing about spectator. Like, you haven't seen anything about spectator. The only mention about spectating is in the Hazard Zone blog post, where they say you can spectate your teammates while you are dead. That doesn't mean that there's a spectator mode in the game. That just means that there is the ability to spectate players in that particular game mode while you are dead. You can do it in Call of Duty, but you can't spectate in Warzone and Call of Duty. Same thing in Apex. It's not like you can just go in and spectate a game in Apex. So that concerns me. The reason why it concerns me is because many of you guys know in chat, I'm a competitive esports caster. Like, I like casting competitive games. I do it for Call of Duty. I've done it for Rainbow Six. I'm going to do it for Battlefield. I've done it for Battlefield for years. I'm looking forward to doing it for 2042. I do not want to have to be in a Casper drone to cast a match. I don't want that. So I'm hoping and praying that they put in a spectator mode into the game. Even if it's a base spectator mode like we had in Battlefield 4, it will still be better than nothing. There are some, I hope they don't pour it over Battlefield 5 spectator, because that's got a host of bugs that are involved in it. Hey, Daskro, how's it going, man? Had to shout out Daskro just because he's the whole reason why I got into casting. Anyways, that is my biggest concern. I can deal with all the rest of it. I see myself putting in probably 200 to 300 hours into the base game, probably about, I don't know, maybe about 300 to 400 to 500 hours into Portal. If we have spectator mode, I'm probably going to have at least 1,000 hours casting matches. That's probably going to be where I'm sitting at the most. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the game. Like Incarnate said, they've already got my money. I already have my pre-order in. So we'll just see how it shakes out. You're muted, Gravity.
Fuck. Spectator mode, for the love of God, give us spectator mode. Jesus, that we need that so bad. I mean, I like pretty much what Brett said. Most of my game time is going to be spent in Portal mode. I'll play the base game, see what it's like, see what the features they give us there for the experience, for the maps. I'll play Hazard mode just to try it out, but for the most part, Portal is amazing, and more often than not just the features of, competitive or the changes, I'm interested in revisiting past maps, because I've been around forever, and this is the first time since, any Wake Island remake that any other past 1942 map has been remade. They chose some bad ones, so I hope you guys will like walking an hour out to find the next flag in El Alamein.
They didn't choose the bad ones. They chose the ones that could easily remake with Battlefield 5 assets.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, Bulge will be okay, but El Alamein, God. But yeah, revisiting past maps will be fun. But we need spectator mode for competitive play. Just doing random things. I'd like to see the ingenuity of the community and what they do with the game. I'd like to see, some crazy servers that are balanced, or servers that are mainly just, hey, let's remake BF3 to the core the best we can. I think that's going to be what a lot of people hype and go on in Portal mode. I think at the end of the day, I'm pleased with the game's progress so far. I think it's way behind schedule. I think there's a ton of bugs, regardless of how behind and how segmented this beta was compared to what they said the base game is. That's fine. I don't believe them. I think we're going to be launched with a ton of bugs and problems. The big thing is it's not BF5, and I don't care. I think it's already better than BF5, and I think that's a win. And I think the majority of the player base will find that as a win too.
Yeah.
Here. All right, my turn.
Your turn.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, forget 2042, forget Portal, forget about all that stuff. Man, I'm super hyped about Battlefield Mobile. Man, I mean, I get to
Oh.
play with all my classes, right? I get to play on the Battlefield 3, everyone's favorite map. What is that one called again?
Grand Bazaar.
The Grand Bazaar, right? You got the tank gameplay. Rockets look great, right? Sounds kind of bad, but it's all right. Industrial Toys are on it, and I can't wait. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, look, 2042, I'm super optimistic about, and
We gotta go
the
gothic
fact
here.
that
He's going.
Yeah.
Don't you guys have phones?
yeah, the fact that we're not only getting 7 maps on launch and that we're getting 13 is freaking great. And Portal is giving that opportunity, so thank Ripple Effect, man, saviors, man. They
Dice
the
LA at it
former
again.
Dice LA. I hope they nail Portal, dude, and just I don't know how All Out Warfare is going to keep up. Like they're going to just start porting all the cool Portal shit, and they're like, oh, all maps break through with, the remastered ones as well, or Rush or whatever they're going to have, and it's going to be like that limited time game mode and All Out Warfare, and they're going to have to adapt because I think there's just so much flexibility in Portal, and it looks like you can interchange between Portal and All Out Warfare. We've seen it with the bugs that Gravity mentioned, where the guy was able to access the Battlefield 3 soldiers and was playing. It's like that's proof that Portal and All Out Warfare are completely interchangeable, and they can do whatever they want with it at any time. So yeah, expect some limited time game modes on the All Out Warfare as its staple mode. So I wouldn't freak out about the whole class system stuff. It's gonna be there, and I hope it kicks the specialist system's ass. To be honest, we'll see how that goes, but I'm pretty sure it will. And because people love nostalgia, people like the snappiness of the older games. Maybe not Bad
Well, now,
Company 2.
wait a
but I
minute.
mean, that had
Is
some
it going
struggle,
to
but-
have the same mechanics as like? Is it
Yeah,
gonna,
they're trying to emulate the older games.
Yeah.
Same mechanics. They're trying to mirror it pretty much,
Well-
as from what they're saying. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay, so
Just-
they're tuning the
just-
guns to be.
Yes.
Go ahead, Graf.
Yes. Well, no, yeah, exactly what you're gonna say there. They did announce that there will be modes that Ripple is going back to. You can reinstitute the original damage values, TTK, all the original values from the original 1942 Bad Company and BF3 in the game, which is awesome. But I have one major concern about that. That's great for gunplay, but if the 2042 vehicles are absolute dog shit, especially the jet mechanics, and people, does the physics system of the Space 2042 apply to those past games? People loved dogfighting in BF3 in 1942. Do those maintain the original physics engines that made those aircraft great, or do those suck as well? Because that is a huge problem.
That seems like a lot of work, right, Gravity?
Theoretically, yes, but I'm sure they can
So, I
make
don't
great
know.
changes. You could still make changes to the mode if you're instituting those jets.
I mean, that's their vision. So let's see if they hold up to that. So far, all we can tell is the soldiers from one era, and that was a bug. So probably all that wasn't even finished or meant to be in the beta in any fashion. But just having that option is what excites me the most about Battlefield. Also, with the release of Hazard Zone, the reveal was, I think, yesterday morning, and the trailer was just really cool looking. But I love how they explained literally nothing about the gameplay. Like you had to go read the blog and everything to see what actually happened or what you actually saw there. But it looks beautiful, and it looks like it uses the original maps. I'm excited for it. I know, Brett, you had a concern about, what's the point overall? What's the longevity? And I think I might have an answer for you. And you may or may not like it, but I think the main goal is to get like the highest extraction streak. You remember that in the blog post about the
Yeah.
you remember
Yeah.
that? Yeah. What do you think about just that over? I just wanted to pick your brain here real quick. You know.
Well, I mean, so okay. So for me, I could definitely see where that would be something that could hold somebody's attention for a month, maybe. But it's going to get to a point because I think that the way the damage values are and the way the gameplay is going to be set up for the base game and how it's more than likely going to translate into Hazard Zone, the killing is going to be super fast. It's going to be really, really, really fast. It's going to be fairly hard to get your teammates to be revived. So one really good player will more than likely be able to wipe a squad super fast. Okay, so when you get those super squads that are going to be teaming up together, depending on how their matchmaking system works, whether it's going to do pre-mades versus pre-mades or if it's going to just throw randoms in with pre-mades, it might be super, super easy to just go on streaks all day long. And if it is at that point, what do you do that's left in the game? Well, what's left is to grief other players, to constantly prevent anybody from taking off and extracting. So, once you've built up a bank of dark matter credits, whatever it's called, whatever it is, once you bank up enough of those, how easy is it going to be to go into a game and just constantly grief other squads and just like, I see it becoming something that is just more of a frustration to play than it is anything. Especially, and I also mentioned this in, I think, that same Twitter post that you were talking about. I mentioned the fact that for solo queuing, this is going to be an absolute nightmare because there's no reason for a team to stick together. Because remember, you can extract as a solo and still get your rewards. You don't have to extract with your team. Yes, you don't have to extract with your full team. So what incentive is there for a player who has been playing this game mode for a while, has a bank of credits stacked up, to just jump in and go screw around? Just go in there to make up his own rules. I'm going to see how many kills I can get in this game. But he doesn't help his squad. His squad is then match made with somebody. It's like when you go into Apex and your third just goes off in the middle of nowhere and dies. How frustrating is that to deal with? Right? And I think it's going to be magnified in this particular game mode because I just don't see it being as easy for a squad of 2 or 3 to be able to win over a pre-made squad of 4, or even just a really well-coordinated squad of 4 that are sticking around each other, because these specialists may have some really cool buffs that they can put on their own teammates in terms of health and armor and being able to just, keep them revived and up and alive for very long periods of time. It might just be a situation to where unless you have that God combination, you're not going to be able to do much in the mode. And I realize I'm saying all this and I'm making all of these assumptions without actually seeing any gameplay or playing it myself. Right. But I just don't see, as a player who likes to have an end game, how do I win this match? Okay. What declares this team or this person as the victor in this round? Not having that, it doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel like something I'm going to be interested in.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad I picked your brain on that because you had a lot to say about it. I maybe the looting aspect of it might be okay, but I mean, like in Tarkov, you got like a big ass inventory that you can manage, and there's a whole marketplace and whatnot. Yeah. I don't think Hazard Zone is gonna have anything like that. It may not just have no depth at all. It's just a game mode that you might want to play with your friends sometime. And that's what I hoped it wouldn't be. I hoped it would be way more in depth to where it had some maybe RPG elements or something with it, and they can mess around with the specialists. But I feel like Hazard Zone is probably another topic. Did they even say it was going to be out on release?
I don't know. So
I don't know. I think
like, we don't know, right?
with Hazard Zone, the fact that you're not going to be able to because you're not taking loot out of the game. You're going in with a power setup, and then what you're bringing out is the hard drives for credits. So you're not building up your arsenal. You're not going in and getting really cool loot, then bringing it out like you do in Tarkov. Like, yes, you can lose all of your stuff, right? But you're not going to be gaining any stuff. You're just going to be gaining credits. I don't think that quite has the same.
Confirmed, like that you're not finding loot as well. Like, is this not? Do we not know that this is a total?
What the blog post said. Well, what the blog post said was that you were going to get credits for getting the hard drives.
Right. But if you walked into a building and found a hollow site, would you not maybe keep that in an inventory somewhere, like you do in Tarkov?
Well,
I don't think it's like that.
They didn't. They at the very least
like
didn't confirm anything like that. The only thing they confirmed was that you were going to get rewarded in credits at the extraction sites.
Right.
Yeah, you use those credits to pay for like extra. They have a whole list of things you can spend your credits on.
No, you bank them in the store like BF5 for 2,000 hours and don't buy anything because there's nothing in the store.
Actually, I would play Hazard Zone if it meant that I could get cosmetics for my 2042 characters that I'll never.
So they did say that progression will transfer over. So your experience in Hazard Zone will transfer over to the base game. So that is going to be yes
as well.
Yes, so that is going to be confirmed. So it's not like it's completely useless to play it. I just for me as a player, I don't see myself. If it was a BR, I see myself playing that game a lot more. I could totally see myself squatting up with the typical people that I squat up with in Apex, and sitting there going, "All right, let's go in. Where we dropping? How we doing this?" Like, I see myself playing that. And to be honest with you, I think with the new movement mechanics and with the specialists that they brought in, I think that would have been a perfect combination for it. It would have been nice, fast, snappy. You would have had the specialist coming in that would do a certain thing. I think that would have been really fun to see a BR in that respect, and maybe it will be fun in Hazard Zone. Just on the surface, from what I've read in the blog post and what I've seen, with the extraction sites and only 2 teams being able to come out, and then I see a solo queuing being really, really nasty. A lot of issues that I just perceive with it. The other thing that I don't like is that it is behind the paywall, and I know a lot of people will sit there and say, but Showdown is behind a paywall. Tarkov is behind a paywall, but those games only do that. Like, you're buying that game for that experience. Whereas in Battlefield, like, why would you buy it?
You're trying to compete with Warzone. You're trying to compete with your own EA title, Apex, both of which are free.
Right.
And you're trying to pull in that player base, but then you also have to charge them $60 plus microtransactions if they want to diversify themselves.
But if I pull up Battlefield though, why am I playing that? Like, as a player who is brand new, do I want to play it for the base 2042 All-Out Warfare? Do I want to play it for this portal thing that apparently I can play old maps on and customize servers? Or do I want to play it for this? Like, as a new player, why would I buy Battlefield? Like, there's no real good push as to why I should buy Battlefield, I think, from the marketing department. And I think having a free-to-play element with Hazard Zone would have been a really good entryway into, hey, here's this squad-based mode. Go play this. If you have fun, try buying this thing, because it's got more of it, just in different ways.
Exactly, and that will save your game and sell more copies much more down the road, too, and keep that population alive. It's so much more advantageous. And on the other hand, the whole game was developed with this whole special system in mind, probably around a BR theme. That was kind of the idea, to compete with Apex and stuff. If you're going to have 3 different modes like this that just are going to completely pull players' attention in 3 different, directions, I mean, Firestorm and BF5 already was too much of a pull for one of them, and Firestorm died almost immediately, and that wasn't free to play either. So it's really weird that they're not learning from their mistakes, and 2, you could have released Battlefield 2042 with just portal mode in the base game, kept the old class system, and then behind the scenes worked on this really cool idea of having these specialists and having this hazard mode as an offshoot game mode for a unique independent spin-off Battlefield game that it also included a 128-player battle royale that was unique and could have been free to play and could have just been completely this separate entity that wouldn't have stretched players in their what they want to do.
So,
Yeah,
anyways,
it feels like they're reaching for a market that they're not fully
Yeah.
invested in.
Yep.
Or they're not fully invested in themselves to do that. Yeah.
and I think that they have, and Gravity kind of talked about this as well. They have a stain looming over their head with their previous iteration of Battle Royale, right? I mean, they dropped it after what, 6 months, and never revisited it. So why would somebody go, oh, Hazard Zone, let's buy a $60 game to run this risk of having it dropped just in a few months? Like that's another aspect. I think that they should have probably just released it for free. But anyways, guys, we added on to it for about another 30 minutes there. Sorry about that. But like I said, we could talk for hours about this, and who knows, we might convene the roundtable maybe, after the game releases, just to kind of have a talk about our thoughts on Portal, because we'll actually be able to dive into it and see what's what. But we do have specialists that are going to be coming out fully revealed next week, so definitely tune in onto the Battlefield channels for that. That should be pretty interesting to see how that's going to be throwing some changes into the mix and what's going to be happening there. Hopefully they will be releasing some information about Portal, and maybe we can get a confirmation on spectator mode. I don't know. But thank you guys all for watching. We absolutely appreciate you spending the time with us here tonight. It's been going on 3 hours almost, so if you have managed to stick around all the way to the beginning, kudos to you. You definitely deserve it. But once again, we are here with Incarnate. I am BrettFX, Gravity, and Julian. We're going to go ahead, go around, and just give our social media and our YouTube and Twitches so that you guys can go and follow those, because we are going to be creating lots of content coming out for this. And we'll start with you, Incarnate.
Okay, so you can find me on YouTube at Incarnate. I don't know what exactly the channel ID is. Don't care. I don't really upload there. My Twitter is IncarnateNA. I think there's no underscore, but there's an underscore in my Twitch, which is Incarnate_NA. But I don't really care about any of those because I don't stream right now, and I don't really tweet that much. But please check out sim.gg. That is Simthic, or now Sim, whatever you want to call it. I will have 2042 stats up there eventually, I swear on my life. Also be doing other games, hopefully, maybe sometime soon, maybe not, I don't know. But anyways, just go follow that. Go follow at Simthic. That's my plug. Next person.
All right, Gravity, you're up.
You can find me at GravityXII13 on Twitter and on Twitch. Twitch channel, you'll find me playing mostly Battlefield 4, but a diverse variety of Battlefield games, all stretching all the way back to BF 1942 at times. And my YouTube channel, youtube.com//GravityBFTV. And you can find all my montages, previous casts from all BF4 and BF2 on there as well.
All right, Julian?
Yep. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Julian Janganoo. I'll be having my Battlefield show returning tomorrow at noontime with Nickel Battlefield.
Hey!
And
Awesome.
We're going to be talking all about what we're talking about here, but covering some other topics when it comes to vehicles and whatnot, and competitive play.
That's one of those Battlefield gods that Incarnate mentioned earlier.
I hope you spend an hour discussing mice.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, guys.
My first question.
I am BrettFX. You can find me at BrettFX on Twitter. You can find me over at YouTube, youtube.com/BrettFX Gaming. It's where I'll probably be streaming from now on. This stream will be posted up on my channel. It'll be posted up on the Level channel, and I'm sure Gravity will probably want to post it up on his channel. So there'll be 3 different places that you guys can find it. And definitely make sure you follow this channel here at Levelgg. We are going to hopefully be doing some events and some matches later on in 2042. So definitely want to be subscribed here. Make sure you guys follow us, and also follow us on Twitter at Levelgg Official, I believe, as we are going to be posting it up over on that side. Anyways, guys, we are going to be calling it a night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on your Friday. We hope that you have a good weekend, and yeah, we'll see you maybe in the next one if we have one. If not, definitely give us a hey when Battlefield does launch. So guys, thank you so much for joining me once again, and that is going to be it. Take it easy.